Mahomes steps up. Mahomes, a bullet to the back of the end zone. Hopkins, touchdown, Chiefs. Buying time and then delivering at the last moment. Patrick Mahomes. We're down to 47 seconds left. Mahomes out of the pocket. Mahomes on the run. Takes a look around. Oh, Mahomes is still going. Slips away for a huge gain. Mahomes working that sideline, turns it into a 33-yard rip. 31-yard attempt. 2 seconds on the clock. The kick. Schrader. He knocks it through. The Chiefs are a winner today in Charlotte.
Are they, though? Were they a winner in Charlotte? I don't know. I'm not sure based on the reaction. I'm not sure that they won that game. It's not a Pyrrhic victory, but it's a win that a lot of people feel like was a loss. 913-381-0810. We'll get your thoughts on that. 913-381-0810. Your phone calls the first couple of hours wide open here. Field Yates coming up at noon. We will talk with our NFL insider from ESPN, get his thoughts on this game and, of course, some other things around the league as the Chiefs stay atop the AFC by getting a win against the Carolina Panthers. Taking care of business. I think this is number 5 or 6 where we say you never apologize for a win in the NFL. That has become a common theme around here with the Chiefs, really over the last 7 years. It's been a common theme. We have seen the highest of highs, and then along the way, we have had the highest of skepticism and criticism and frustrations and doubts and dismissing what the Chiefs have done on the field. And then come January, they just do the same thing that they do every year. I don't know if this is from a standpoint of being spoiled or it's a standpoint of being experienced, a standpoint of knowing what you know now as opposed to, not knowing what you don't know. Chiefs fans know a lot about the postseason. Now, over the last 5 years, it's been an amazing run. A lot of experience in the postseason. So there's a level of you feel like you're spoiled because winning a game by a margin of 3 against a bad team is not good enough, and you don't enjoy yourself, and after the game is over, you feel like everything is negative. Everything is bad. Everything is the sky is not falling, but it did not rise to the level after the sky was somewhat falling last week against the Bills. So maybe there's an element of being privileged in watching this Chiefs team do what they do in January and being able to complain after a win. But the point about having experience and seeing what happens in the postseason is Chiefs fans are very aware of how thin the margin is to win in the postseason. So while, yes, spoiled to say they won the game but did not win by enough, they won the game but struggled along the way to beat a team, yes, that can be viewed as spoiled, but it's also we are comparing this Chiefs team to Chiefs teams of past. We are grading this team on the curve of a Super Bowl. This team is not graded on the curve of trying to make the playoffs. This team is graded on what's it going to take to win 3 straight Super Bowls. And oftentimes what we're seeing this year, you can envision those things happening in the playoffs and ending your season what you feel like would be prematurely. So yeah, it can be both. You can be of two minds. You can understand an element of being spoiled that we have an element and being able to complain about a win, while also knowing this team is in a different position than the Carolina Panthers. That was a huge moral victory for the Panthers over the weekend. It was huge for them. For the Chiefs, you come away feeling bad. You come away feeling like it's not going to be good enough. And I completely get that. I completely understand why that's the case. I don't want to dismiss the things we have seen this year and the things we saw yesterday against the Panthers. But I do want to at least acknowledge, on our way to discussing a lot of these things today, which we will obviously get into, because it was not a dominant victory. I did not pick the Chiefs to cover. I did not pick them to win 30-27. In fact, none of us picked them to win 30. Oh, wait, Mick picked them to win 30-27. He reminded us of that when the Chiefs had the ball driving down the field, tied 27. Said, hey, which one of us picked it 27?
I thought he jinxed it. I really did. I thought that he cursed it, and I was just going to let it happen, and it.
I joked, and I'm like, you know what? They're going to bust this thing free and score a touchdown.
That's what I thought.
And they're going to win like 34-27 and kill your prediction. But when the Panthers were driving down 27-19, that actually popped into my head. I'm like, if they score and get a 2-point conversion and the Chiefs get a field goal, they're going to win 30-27. That's exactly what Mick Schaefer picked. Mick and I were the ones that did not pick them to cover the spread, which, you know, we've sort of seen this movie before. It's the same series, just a different episode. And as we get into some of the issues that are there, again, 913-381-810-810. I know we got a couple of people on hold right now, but we'll get to you guys and certainly the text, 913-912-4810 as well. I want to acknowledge that the Panthers did present the Chiefs with essentially all they had. It is the NFL. They get paid as well. All the cliches. We talked last week about how the view in Carolina, in Charlotte, was this was an opportunity for an organizational turning point. An opportunity for, you know, this team to say, hey, we're heading in the right direction with our offense, with our quarterback, with our head coach, with our personnel. Look what we did to the Chiefs. Whether we win or come close to winning. And when you've got a team that puts that much into the week, and you've got a Chiefs team that's coming off a loss and getting ready to play a bad Carolina team on the road, while then having a short week against the Raiders, it's the reason I didn't pick the Chiefs to cover. I did not pick them to win by 3. I picked them to win by 10, which is still not a cover of 10.5, but still. But also a player trajectory game for this Carolina Panthers team. And I think we saw the best Panthers game / performance of the season. I don't think there's any question about that. And we did not see a very good performance from the Chiefs overall. There were some bright spots to take away from this. The Chiefs' offense scored on the first 5 possessions of the game. There were some issues that we saw that have been a problem this year. Pass protection for the Chiefs. They signed DJ Humphries. We'll talk about that, what that means moving forward. Putting pressure on the opposing quarterback. Hopefully they get Omenihu back this week against the Raiders. We'll see how much he can make an impact with that. The secondary for the Chiefs, still an issue. Whether that is the secondary and the pass rush, or the pass rush and the secondary, or just both of them are coming up short right now. All of it is combining to have a loss against the Bills and this win that felt like a loss against the Panthers. But you don't apologize in the NFL for a win. This game, for a feeling like this that we have coming out of this one, you got to go all the way back to last year. When the last time you felt like, wow, they won the game, but it felt like a loss. the Jets. You got to go all the way back to last year. And they also lost 24-9 to the 2-5 Broncos last year. They also lost on Christmas Day to the Raiders last year. And before that, you got to go all the way back to the year before that, in 2022, to find a game in which they lost by 3 to a team that went 4-12 that year. 4-12-1. And before the 2022 season, you got to go all the way back to the 2021 season, when they won 20-17 against the 2-5 Giants to improve their record to 4-4. They beat the Broncos 28-24 with a Nick Bolton scoop and score of almost 90 yards to get the number 2 seed. A team that was playing out the string, and the Chiefs, a win, get the 2 seed. They were trailing in that game, and the Broncos were getting ready to score a touchdown. And then the Chiefs get a huge stop, fumble, pick up by Nick Bolton, scored, 86-yard touchdown. They win the game. They get the number 2 seed. They beat the Bills at home because they got the number 2 seed. If they lose that game, they go to Buffalo. What happens? There's no 13-second game. One of the greatest moments in Chiefs postseason history. They had to survive the Broncos based on a scoop and score. And before the 2021 series or season, you got to go all the way back to the 2020 season. Before that, when they beat the Panthers 33-31, a team that went 5-11. They beat the Panthers at home. There was a field goal in the air to win against the Chiefs. Later on that year, they beat the Broncos at home, a 5-11 Broncos team, 22-16, in which they trailed late in the third quarter. They were up 19-6 throughout most of the fourth quarter against that Broncos team. And then later that year, the Atlanta Falcons went 4-12 on the season, and the Chiefs won 17-14. If you remember that one, they were down 14-10 with 2 minutes to go. And Patrick Mahomes on first down threw an interception in the end zone to A.J. Terrell, who, when he fell back, the ball popped free. And the next play, Demarcus Robinson, 25-yard touchdown. The Chiefs won 17-14. They went on and lost to the Buccaneers that year in the Super Bowl, but some of these games get washed away. And before the 2020 season, you got to go all the way back to the 2019 season, when they lost to the Colts on Sunday Night Football 19-13. When the Chargers went 5-11 that year and they beat them by 7 at home later on in the year. And, of course, before that, you got to go all the way back to 2018 season when they beat the Raiders 40-33 coming off a bye, and they were up by 3 with 2 minutes to go. The Raiders went 4-12 that year. So we have been here before. Unfortunately, it's happened a lot. The fortunate part is it's happened so often that you kind of dismiss these things from the bigger picture, from the macro standpoint. It's not dismissing the issues along the way. It's not dismissing the things that have happened that they clearly have to improve on, that if those things happen in the postseason, they will lose. But to act like this team, there's no chance that they can win a Super Bowl based on these last 2 weeks, the evidence of the Chiefs in their entire tenure with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at quarterback says that is not true. It says that regardless of what happens in the regular season with a game here or there, this team still knows how to do it in January. But again, why I started with whether it's from a spoiled standpoint or just a knowledge of experience standpoint, Chiefs fans know how thin the margin of victory is in the postseason. The Chiefs turned the ball over last year and dropped the ball a lot. And what happened in the postseason? They didn't turn it over and they didn't drop the ball. And they won 3 of their 4 games by a score. And they got turnovers. 3 turnovers against the Ravens. 2 of them in the end zone. And they win by 7. A missed field goal by the Bills. Now, Anybody that watched that game would point out that the Chiefs fumbled the ball in the end zone. That could have completely controlled it. And the field goal by the Bills wasn't for the win. It was to tie the game, and the Chiefs would have gotten the ball back. So the Bills didn't miss a field goal that cost them the game. They missed a field goal that cost them tying the game and the Chiefs getting the ball back. But it was still a one-possession game. And then they win in overtime. If they drop the ball and turn the ball over in the Super Bowl, they lose. If they do that against the Ravens, they lose. If they do that against the Bills, I know they turn it over in the end zone, but a couple of other turnovers along the way, a drop pass here or there, they lose. They overcame their mistakes at the most opportune time. And that's where the concern comes in, and that's where I do feel like Chiefs fans have every right to be frustrated and concerned. Because if those things don't happen, if they do not improve upon those things, yeah, we can be talking about why they lost and be coming back and saying, this is what happened all year. And they couldn't fix it this go-around. Because these opportunities are few and far between. 50 years a lifetime between Super Bowls. We've seen 2 more since then. Nothing is guaranteed or promised that we'll ever see another one. And that's where the sense of urgency comes in, is because you know we are living in the good old days. We are in the middle of the golden era of Chiefs football, and you want to capitalize as much as you can. And you don't want to look back and go, they couldn't put pressure on the quarterback. Cost them the game. Couldn't get a stop on third down late in the game. They were up by 3 with a minute and a half to go, defense on the field. The other team went and scored a touchdown. You lose the game in the divisional round or the AFC Championship game. You just couldn't get off the field. All year long, that was an issue. Why couldn't they fix it? And then you go into next year, a new set of players, a new set of issues. Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, these guys coming up for contracts. Trey Smith. What goes on at left tackle? Joe Thuney's final year. Chris Jones another year. Travis Kelce another year. Patrick Mahomes another year. This time next year, Patrick Mahomes will have a 3 in the first number in his age. I get shivers down my spine thinking about that. I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah, that felt weird. I don't like
really
that.
Weird. I know. This time next year, like his birthday's in September. Like he's 29 right now. So Chiefs fans have every right to be concerned. But you can also fall back on this is a team that through the 2020 season, we got the famous quote from Patrick Mahomes that says, I guess we're not winning by enough, so I guess that's a stat. We're not winning these games by enough points. I guess that's a stat. Because they were winning close games and people were very concerned about whether they would win back-to-back Super Bowls. They didn't. We know what happened. They were ravaged with injuries on the offensive line. They had guys playing different positions than they had played all year, and they went up against one of the best fronts in the NFL. Tampa Bay. Terrible matchup. Those things happen. They also had opportunities in the first quarter. Tyreek Hill drops a touchdown. You know, maybe that changes things if the Chiefs jump out 7-0. Don't know. I have no idea. Chiefs had opportunities to put a stranglehold on this game and I think to crush the spirits of the Panthers. And it didn't happen. And it's not anything that you can really complain about. It's just one of those things that happens in a game. It was 2nd down and 1 from the Carolina, 5-yard line? And they handed it off to Kareem Hunt. They didn't throw the ball. They didn't get cutesy with it. They handed the ball off to Kareem Hunt. Joe Thuney holding penalty. I think it was a pretty weak call. There were a number of those. Justin Reed hit a guy too hard, which literally gave the Panthers a point. That's a true story. If they don't throw the flag for Justin Reed hitting Thielen too hard, they have 1 less point in the game. They are then down by 9 late in the game and not 8. But they end up kicking the extra point because after the penalty for hitting somebody too hard, they had a false start and then they kicked the extra point. But they had a holding penalty on Joe Thuney. That was pretty weak, the holding penalty. So weak that Joe Thuney had no clue that he was being called for a hold, and the defender didn't complain and didn't realize it was a holding penalty. That's how weak. You see defenders complain, like they look back and they're like, "Yep, I see that flag. It's coming back." The dude that Joe Thuney was blocking just started walking back to the huddle and looking around when there was a flag. Is like, what's going on? But that happens. They had a chance to really, put a stranglehold. They scored their first 5 possessions. Offensively, I think they took a step forward. Defensively, they have taken steps back. There's a real concern for the defense the rest of the way. There's a concern that this may turn out to be 2018 more than 22, or last year, I should say. It's 22, they had the number 1 offense in the NFL. But last year when they were led by their defense. Because if this continues on this trajectory, the defense has gotten progressively worse and worse and worse. Whether that is directly connected correlation causation with Jalen Watson, or it is just simply through the course of the season, the book is out. People see what you're doing. They adjust to it. You can't put pressure on the quarterback. They know you're going to blitz. Bryce Young was blitzed on a career-high 40% yesterday. And all he did was go 11 of 14 for 123 yards and a touchdown, and almost 10 yards per attempt against the blitz. I mean, we've seen this team have to resort to blitzing and playing cover 0. And when you're playing cover 0, you got more of a chance for Bryce Young just to throw the ball near a receiver that then gets open, whether that's on Shamari Connor, on Trent McDuffie, on Brian Cook, yes, on Nazeeh Johnson, who I think is getting unfairly, to a degree, criticized, because when Nazeeh Johnson gives up a pass, it's Nazeeh Johnson sucks. But when Shamari Connor gives up a pass and Brian Cook gives up a pass and Trent McDuffie gives up a pass, well, those things happen. What are you going to do? Nazeeh Johnson gives up a pass. Good God, Jalen Watson destroyed the defense because he got injured. Well, there are some problems in the secondary, and it ain't just Nazeeh Johnson. Brian Cook's not the same that he was a year ago before the ankle injury. Shamari Connor's not athletic enough to play the slot full time. How do they overcome that? That's on Steve Spagnuolo. That's on him to adjust, and he did not. I love Spags. I don't want any other defensive coordinator than Steve Spagnuolo. But in that game, the blitz was not working. You weren't getting there to sack him, and it was creating one-on-ones that the other team was winning in those matchups, and Bryce Young was just putting it in an area. And he was playing phenomenal football. You got to adjust in that game. They come back for the Raiders this weekend. Let's play this clip of Andy Reid, because this tells me a lot about how the Chiefs are feeling about this game. They won the game, but they weren't happy about the way they performed. That felt like a pass-fail. You either win or you don't. A pass-fail. Here's Andy Reid. This is the clip number 1. This is the locker room after the game is over, and you hear it from Andy Reid talking to his team, and you know exactly what's going on in the locker room and the reaction from the Chiefs in a win against the Panthers.
All right, so look, I don't want to see anybody hanging their head, man. This league is crazy. That's the way this thing goes. You saw it yesterday with college football. Nothing's given to you. And you're getting their best shot. So you keep your heads up, man, and we get this thing rolling. Right? We got some things we got to clean up, but we keep it rolling here. That's the important part. Winning is the important part right here. And you guys bear down and got it done. All right, let's give it one Chiefs here. How about those Chiefs?
I don't want to see anybody hanging their heads in here. You won in the NFL. That's the level of expectation the Chiefs have. Beating a team like the Panthers and scoring at the end of the game, kicking a field goal to win it while time expires, is not good enough. And Chiefs fans that think it's not good enough, guess what? The players agree with you. And that's a great sign. I don't care what they say at the podium of, hey, you feel good about getting a win. I don't care what they say today. We'll hear from the Chiefs today. No Andy Reid today because of a short week. We'll hear from some of the Chiefs today. I don't care what they say at the podium or the Zoom. and say, win, we feel good coming out of there, blah, blah. They did not. They didn't feel good. To me, that's a positive. They know the level that they're expected to play at. It's their own level of expectation. The Chiefs fans don't have to expect that from them. They expect it from themselves. And I think in 2020, coming off a Super Bowl, there was a level of frustration and annoyance by the Chiefs players at the Chiefs fans because they weren't winning by enough, and there was constant criticism about why they are, I love the term, playing with their food. Why they are not just beating a team down. And there was a level of frustration that came through with Patrick Mahomes in that press conference in 2020 when he said, I guess we're not winning by enough. So I guess that's a stat that's out there. This is not, to me, players being frustrated at Chiefs fans for being concerned about issues. This, to me, is they themselves are frustrated and mad at their performance as a team. Let's bring in Jerry, who's been waiting patiently to join the show before we take a break. We'll take more phone calls, 913-381-0810. Phone calls up till noon, and then Field Yates joins us. Jerry, thank you for holding, man. I appreciate it. Go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Oh, thank you for taking my call, and I'm wishing you guys a happy Thanksgiving week.
And to you and yours, buddy.
And I wanted to say something about Travis, but you brought up a couple things. One thing, last week I called and I said something about I thought the Chiefs could win by a field goal. I told my brother that, and I know it was they had the lead by 2 points, but I thought it was just going to be a matter of trading field goals. I had no idea that Buffalo was going to come back and score and all that stuff. And I'm shocked Nick Schaefer got the right on the money.
Nailed
that's
it.
Pretty cool.
We all reacted. He's the 30. We're like, what? And he goes, "Are you kidding me? I've seen this Chiefs team before." I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay, Mr. Pessimism, Nick Schaefer, whatever."
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to be able to cover either. But like you said, I didn't think it was going to be 3 points. But they found a way to do it. The thing I wanted to say about Trav, last night when I called, I said something about Samaje Perine was my shining star, even though he didn't score. And I left out all the people that did score, like D-Hop and Noah Gray and Patrick Mahomes and all those guys. I don't want to diminish them at all, but what I saw was Travis, when the other guys were doing their bit, he was like the best cheerleader. He was going up to them, happy that they got what they got. At the end of the game, he walked up to Andy Reid and shook his hand, really businesslike and stuff. And he didn't look like he was happy during the game, but he was happy when the teammates had success. And I thought that was really awesome. So, yeah, I'm hoping Travis has a really good postseason. I think he will. And I think now you're seeing more people being open. It's going to come back around to Travis where he's going to have that shot again like he used to have. I didn't mean to bore you, but thank you for taking my call. And way to go, Mizzou, KU, KSU, and even for Todd Levo, Oklahoma.
That's right.
That was awesome.
That's right. What a crazy weekend in college football it was. Jerry, thank you for the time, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling 913-381-0810. Yeah, college football was absolutely nutty this weekend. A&M losing, Oklahoma beating Alabama. KU beating Colorado, which is what I picked on Friday. And I didn't think
people around here, that wasn't as crazy to us.
No, it was not. Like
the way KU's been playing, that was not a shocker. It kind of was that we dominated them. But
I appreciated my money line underdog parlay of I was strong in my conviction. I picked KU and Arizona State to win, both underdogs in those games. And
imagine if you tossed OU on that.
No way.
You don't want to ruin it, but boy.
No way. I didn't have a conviction about OU beating up. No chance in that. I didn't think there was any chance OU was. But I felt
that was a shock.
Yes, I felt pretty strong about KU and Arizona State both winning. So we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue with your phone calls. If you're on hold, we'll get to you right after the break. 913-381-0810, 913-912-4810. I want to get to some texts that are coming in as well. As we were talking through what we saw from yesterday's game and what it means now for this Chiefs team moving forward. Plenty of other things I want to get into for this game and looking ahead as well for the Raiders on Red Friday, not Black Friday. It's not Black Friday. It's Red Friday around here. We'll take a
Good point.
We'll take a timeout. Come back. More Zone next. All right, so we're seeing that maybe the Chiefs need some upgrades to some things around them. Let's bring in Zach to the conversation here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Victory Monday here in Kansas City. Chiefs move to 10-1. They get ready for a Red Friday matchup against the Raiders. Zach, go right ahead. Thank you for waiting, sir. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for having me on. First off, I'm gonna slip in there, rock chalk, baby.
There you go.
If we go lose to Baylor, we still cause a huge ruckus in the Big 12. So I'm walking away from this season a happy camper. Period.
I don't think you're losing to Baylor. I think you're going.
No,
to a
I
bowl
don't
game.
either.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't either.
Hey,
man.
by the way, that crazy stat of KU, the first team in college football history to beat 3 straight top 25 teams with a sub 500 record is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So go ahead, Zach. What's on your mind, bud?
All right, so I called in on a Sunday morning, not here, or I think it was ESPN Radio or something, a couple of weeks back, and they were sitting there, doing what the national media likes to do. They sit there and they dog out the Chiefs because for some reason they must have blanked out all of last year. They're sitting here saying the Chiefs aren't winning the way we're accustomed to seeing them win, and I'm like, so last year when we had one real dominant win, I think it was against the Bears.
The Bears, yep.
It's like, what, you're not accustomed to watching us win this way? Like, what have I been watching? I just, and it seems like it doesn't matter if our offense is amazing or our defense is amazing. Everybody's always going to figure out some way to start dogging us out and try to find the next best team they can pick besides the Chiefs, because we've done nothing but win over the last half a decade.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a pretty good position to be in. And, I was frustrated. There were times I was frustrated watching the game yesterday. I'm so grateful I sat here and listened to you talk about, some of these prior years where we've had some of these tough grind out wins against bad teams on the road or at all, period. At home, too, yeah. And, the thing is, I feel like it's a lost art in the NFL of really learning how to win really close games. Like, they want to see all these blowouts by the offense and this, that, and the other. But our team has probably faced adversity in every single game. And, I mean, I don't think people give enough credit to how much resiliency that'll build in a team. Like, that team walks out on the field no matter what, and they never think they don't have a shot, period. And I don't think there's anything to hang our hats about either. I'm glad that the players want more, because, I mean, I think we all want to see them just destroy everyone. But at the same time, we're coming up on the time of the year where this is when the team really starts rolling anyway. Now, the defense is taking a couple steps back, sure. But at the same time, our offense is stepping back up into it. So, I'm just anxious to see what that team looks like when everybody's clicking. And, knowing Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, that normally happens in late December and January. So I'm still extremely excited about the Chiefs. And let the national media hate on us, man. They take receipts, period.
That's true. So, Zach, I appreciate the phone call, man. Thank you so much. And, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I wasn't frustrated watching the game or annoyed watching the game. Like, I was. Like, yes, I was. But there is perspective after the game is over. And just as I said last week, that I think there was a grace period when the game ends and the emotions are raw versus the next couple of days when you start to put some more things into perspective. You're thinking a little more clearly, okay? So your emotions aren't as high.
I know Bryce Young isn't a world beater either, but he's also not the Bryce Young before they benched him for Andy Dalton.
Dude, also,
like he's different, and he's kind of more so a more mature version of himself than Anthony Richardson is with the same kind of situation.
I didn't think about this until this morning listening to Pete Sweeney, and I think this is as great of a comparison as I can think of. And he absolutely nails it. He said this game reminded him of last year against the Jets when Zach Wilson just had this amazing game. And you're like, how in the world did you let Zach Wilson do that to you? Zach Wilson sucks, and he tore your secondary up. By the way, Zach Wilson's second highest quarterback rating of his entire career was last year against the Chiefs in New York. that Zach Wilson game when the Chiefs couldn't get to him and he was leading second-half drives and scoring, and everybody came out of that game going, the Chiefs are frauds. They're not winning back-to-back games. They couldn't even stop Zach Wilson. It's a great pull by Pete Sweeney because there is an element of that. Obviously, with Bryce Young being a top-pick quarterback and, being benched, going with somebody else, and then being brought back because of injury or ineffectiveness, whatever. Whether it was injury with Andy Dalton, but also Bryce Young has played decent football. He was on fire. It's the best performance we've seen from Bryce Young. He also had a lot of one-on-one matchups based on defensive scheme. The Chiefs weren't getting to him. Dave Canales turns out might be a pretty good coach. We'll see as the season goes along. 913-381-0810. Let's bring in Scott to the conversation here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Scott, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, guys. Well, the previous caller kind of stole my thunder.
Damn it, Zach. Zach is stealing everybody's thunder.
It kind of goes back to the old Redskin days when, one of the offensive linemen goes, dude, the guys on the other side get paid too.
Yeah.
And the Panthers are improving. They've won 2 in a row.
And they were coming off a bye. I mean, there's a lot of elements that go into this thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And, I watched the game. It was frustrating. But thank God for Brett Veach and picking up Kareem Hunt. And can we get a couple of tackles?
They got one on Friday, DJ Humphries. We'll see what he does.
Yeah, we'll see what he does.
Yeah. But,
well,
he's one.
Anyway,
he was playing good football, and he ranked, I think, 36th out of 89 tackles last year in pass blocking grade, which was 20 spots higher than Donovan Smith. Can he play at that level? I mean, we'll see. He's coming off an ACL tear in December.
Yeah. And the other thing is I think we're spoiled from the old days when we were, throwing up 38, 40 points a game. And the NFL's, I like what Andy Reid said. You don't ever hang your head over a victory.
Mm-hmm. But I like that the Chiefs don't feel like that was good enough, even in a win.
Well, I do too.
Yeah.
So, hey, you guys, I have to come up to the dog park on top of a hill to listen to you guys. So,
Scott, thank you for doing it, man. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you for being a part of the show as well, Scott. Happy Thanksgiving to you, man.
You guys have a good Thanksgiving, all right?
Absolutely. 913-381-0810 is the phone number. Let's take a timeout, and we'll come back, and we'll continue with your phone calls, 913-381-0810. There are texts that I want to get into that have come in that I want to talk about and weigh in on. So I want to get into some texts as well, and your phone calls, 913-381-0810, text line 913-912-4810. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. More Zone next. can't brag about, hey, man, the Chiefs are so good. They're the dynasty. They are every team's Super Bowl. And then when a team comes out and plays great and throws the kitchen sink at the Chiefs on both sides of the football, and then be like, man, I can't believe you went up against a team that played that well, that did all of that. Like, yeah. Of course they did. I talked about it last week. Talked about it with Cynthia, that they were viewing this game in Carolina as a potential organizational turning point. That's the amount that they put into this game. It is not an excuse for the issues that are there. In no way, shape, or form is that the case. It's what I mentioned off the top, that there are some things to discuss and talk about. There are some perfectly reasonable takeaways from this game for both positives and frustrations. And there's also the reality of, if you say you are every team's Super Bowl, you can't then complain if they approach it like the Super Bowl and they play good football. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts coming up next. until 2 o'clock. Coming up at noon, Field Yates joins us. We'll also hear from Trey Smith and Nick Bolton at some point today during the show. 913-912-4810 is the text line, 913-381-810. I want to get into some of the texts that have come in, then we'll get back into the phone lines. I know there's some people on hold. We'll get to your phone calls here in just a little bit, but I do want to read some of these texts before we get back into some of the calls. Text says, can we talk about how bad Gene Steratore and Charles Davis are? Couldn't figure out how to sync up Mitch in the TV broadcast. I don't think there's ever been a penalty that Charles Davis didn't agree with. Like, he will wrap himself into a mental pretzel to find a way to agree with the call. It's interesting, especially in the Justin Reed hit him too hard play. Even Gene Steratore, like, I like Gene Steratore for the most part. I liked him a lot. I mean, I liked him in college basketball too, but I mean, yeah, guys, on this one you can clearly see the helmet touches that. Can you? I can't clearly see that. Because whatever you're clearly seeing is not that clear to literally everybody but you and Charles Davis.
Yeah, with 8K zoom and slow motion, we can barely see it. That would be the correct.
Yeah, and then still it's like, was it? Like, to think that a helmet grazing another player's helmet when you connect shoulder to just below the shoulder on a great hit. And also, can we all agree that if Thielen catches the ball, they don't throw the flag? The only reason the flag came out is because he didn't catch the ball. If he holds on to the ball, it's a great catch. 2-point conversion. So, yeah, I don't know the last time Charles Davis has disagreed with a call. 913-912-4810 text says, so you think they're trying to use safeties in place of cornerbacks? Yeah, I do. They've got Shamari Connor playing in the slot. This is the second game in a row that only 2 cornerbacks got any snaps on defense. Against Buffalo, Trent McDuffie and Nazeeh Johnson played 100% of the snaps. And yesterday against the Panthers, Trent McDuffie played 100% of the snaps. Nazeeh Johnson played all but 4. But Joshua Williams, Chris Rowland-Wallace, and Keith Taylor combined for 0. Against Buffalo last week, Joshua Williams, Chris Rowland-Wallace, Keith Taylor combined for 0 snaps on defense. They are playing 2 cornerbacks. Jaden Hicks got 12 snaps in this game. They are putting Nazeeh Johnson and Trent McDuffie, and they're putting Shamari Connor in the slot. It's something that he played last year from time to time. Not a whole lot, but it was mainly Trent McDuffie in the slot. But they talked about, and they were, playing in the preseason. Shamari Connor in the slot, Trent McDuffie on the outside, along with, in the preseason and then, training camp, it was Joshua Williams and Nazeeh Johnson while they were healthy, and then exchanging, being out in injuries, and then Jalen Watson. And now we see it's Nazeeh Johnson. If they thought Joshua Williams was better than Nazeeh Johnson, he'd be playing. They've seen 2 years and change of Joshua Williams, and they have decided he's not good enough to even get on the field right now defensively. They have made the decision that Nazeeh Johnson is their second cornerback, and they are going to sink or swim with him. They are not rotating. This is not a platoon situation like we see in baseball, left-right split. This is Nazeeh Johnson and Trent McDuffie are your cornerbacks, and they don't trust Joshua Williams, Chris Rowland-Wallace, and Keith Taylor out on the field. For one reason or another, that's the issue. That's the way they're going about it. 913-912-4810 text says, I think we also talk about the other team like they don't exist, or they should just be completely incompetent. They were playing better coming off a bye, and every team gives us the best shot. That's also number 1 overall draft pick back there throwing. Can we please give them some credit for being a competent NFL team? Yeah, they looked competent in that game. And as I said going to break, and that text came in before we went to break, but as I said going to break, you can't brag about being every team's Super Bowl, and then when a team approaches it like the Super Bowl and your team does not, and it's a closer game, go, good God, they're going to lose in the playoffs. But again, there are some issues along the way. 913-381-0810. Chuck next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Chuck, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
I appreciate you taking my call.
Absolutely.
I got a couple things. And my buddies think I'm crazy, and hell, I may damn well be. But to me, I think on the offense, I think our passing game is starting to click a little bit. I really do.
I agree.
Even with O-line issues, I think Pacheco's going to make a hell of a difference because Kareem's been a guy, and he's been solid, no doubt, especially coming off the couch. I think Pacheco's explosive and it's going to make a hell of a difference. And then on the defense, the last 4 games, I'm very concerned about the pass rush. To me, I think it's more a pass rush than Nazeeh Johnson because, yes, he's not covering arbitrarily. I'm just throwing out some arbitrary numbers here. He can't cover for 6 seconds like Watson. Maybe he can only cover 4.5. But even the last 4.5 seconds, but even the last couple of weeks with Sutton, yesterday he got a pretty decent game against McDuffie. McDuffie had a penalty yesterday, a couple of catches that you don't see.
The touchdown was on McDuffie. The touchdown was on. I said the touchdown was on McDuffie too. McDuffie was there, made a great play, but it was a great throw and a great catch. That happens.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm thinking it's, in my opinion, and my buddy's saying, I think it's more of a pass rush issue than Nazeeh Johnson because he's in the zip code. I mean, he's not glued like McDuffie is, but he's in the zip code, and he can't cover for 6 seconds compared to like 4. But I'm really concerned the last 4 games with the defense. The opposing team's offense had the ball. Our defense could not stop them from scoring. Granted, there's a block punt in Denver or a field goal, but we cannot stop them the last 4 games for a month now with the last possession of them getting in scoring range. I'm very concerned about the pass rush. I just kind of thought to see your thoughts on that. I appreciate your call.
Yeah, Chuck, I appreciate it, man. 913-381-0810. I'm with you. I think it's a pass rush issue. You know, it's the chicken and the egg. Is it the pass rush that affects the secondary? Is it the secondary that affects the pass rush? No, I think it's the pass rush. I don't think Spags has to blitz 40% of the time if he's feeling like they're getting home with 4. Steve Spagnuolo mentioned last week that, Chris Jones is getting double teamed. Other guys need to win. They got to do their job, and they're not. And even on a play where, I can't remember who won right up the middle, and Bryce Young just slipped out of the way and stepped up in the pocket and was able to run a little bit because the pass rush lane integrity was lost. That's an issue too. It's like when they're winning, there's only one person winning, and they just dodge that guy, and then they've got room to move around. Like the Chiefs, for instance. When the Chiefs had the ball, let me find the notes here on this because it's one of the things that stood out to me that I'm like, wondering with this team and if they can have deeper drops. I mentioned it last week to Cynthia Freeland of is this a team that just has to get rid of some of those deeper drops? For instance, the Chiefs are up 20-16 in the third quarter. They get the ball. They go down and score a touchdown. 1st and 10, play action, roll right, pass to Xavier Worthy. 1st and 10, incomplete pass to Travis Kelce. It was a deeper drop, but Mahomes was gaining depth on that. So the drop when he threw it ended up being a lot deeper than what would be the play call of what depth he needed to take. Because he got to his back foot and then kept hopping backwards a little bit, which we know he does. And then that was the throw to Kelce that should have been pass interference, but it was not. 2nd down and 10. It was the quick slant to DeAndre Hopkins. That was pass interference. It was a snap, boom, look to his right and throw the ball. Quick, rhythm, get it out. What they were doing most of the game. 2nd down and 5 after a Kareem Hunt 5-yard run. Play action, roll right. Trey Smith was beat. Mahomes had to throw it away. Unfortunate because Worthy was coming open, but Trey Smith was beat pretty quickly. Even on a roll right, Trey Smith's guy was right there to force Mahomes to, not have much time to throw. 3rd down and 5, Mahomes scrambles. It was a quick, short drop, but he had to escape because Juwan Taylor was quickly beaten to the inside. It wasn't a deep drop. It was a 3-step drop out of the shotgun. Taylor's beaten to the inside. Mahomes sees it and has to roll to his right, and then that's when he dove for the first down marker, was 1 yard short. Kareem Hunt went for 13 yards. 1st down and goal from the 3 after the unsportsmanlike conduct. Mahomes play action rolled left, a little shovel pass to Kareem Hunt that was incomplete towards the sideline. And then on 2nd down and goal from the 3, it was a short drop where he gained a little depth and then stepped up and then found DeAndre Hopkins for the touchdown. So they didn't have like a really longer developing play in that drive. Okay. They're up 27-19. The Chiefs give up the field goal, 33-yard field goal. They get the stop inside the red zone. Chiefs get the ball back. Kareem Hunt, 12 yards. First down and 10. Patrick Mahomes takes the shotgun snap, quick throw to Travis Kelce for 5 yards. Carson Steele up the middle for 4. Kareem Hunt for 3. First down and 10, Kareem Hunt for 2. Quick drop, rhythm throw, Xavier Worthy, 12 yards. I mean, just took the snap, one step, looked to his right, Xavier Worthy, a quick out route, boom, catch, 12 yards, move the chains. First down and 10, Carolina 36. This is my point about can this team take deeper drops to look for shot plays? Because it was a play action, and after the play action, Mahomes still then went into his regular drop. Mahomes got back to his back foot 11 yards behind the line of scrimmage. On first down and 10. That means he's got to throw the ball 20 yards from his spot. 21 yards to get a first down. His back foot hits 11 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Well, unfortunately, Trey Smith was beat. And the guy, if it wasn't that deep of a drop, Trey Smith would not have been beat. But Trey Smith is blocking the guy who then turns the corner on him, about 8 yards past the line of scrimmage. 8 yards in the backfield. The unfortunate part is that Jawaan Taylor won. Like, Jawaan Taylor stymieing his guy at the line of scrimmage. So then when Mahomes sees Trey Smith's guy coming, he's got to step up. But Jawaan Taylor doesn't know what's going on behind him. So Jawaan Taylor's blocking the guy at the line of scrimmage, and that guy just runs straight to his right because he sees Mahomes coming up the middle. Jawaan Taylor can't then immediately react because, he doesn't know Mahomes is behind him stepping up. And that's when Mahomes throws a quick little outlet to Carson Steele that was short. They went for a shot play, and he didn't have time to throw. They had been rhythm, touchdown, driving down, doing everything they needed. Quick throws, first downs, get the ball out quick, running the ball, keeping the Panthers on their heels. And then play action, 7-step drop after the play action. Incomplete. Next play, second down and 10. They don't do a play action, but it's a deeper drop. Jawaan Taylor just gets beat around the edge, pulls the guy down. And at that point, you end up punting. You punt from your own 40. You were at the 36-yard line of Carolina. You punted from your own 40. And all it took was one play where you say, let's get a shot play here from the 36. This is an offense right now that the rhythm is running the ball, short, quick passes, get the ball out, move the chains, get in rhythm. That's what they were doing in the first half. It's what they were doing when they were scoring. It's what they did when they scored the touchdown. It's what they were doing until they got to the 36-yard line on first and 10. And they wanted a shot play. And here's the issue there, too, is we can complain about Jawaan Taylor and Wanya Morris because they had rough games. Because Jawaan Taylor, even after the holding call, then had illegal hands to the face. Illegal use of hands. Hands to the face. He did not have a good game. But Trey Smith also had a false start on 2nd and 1. Or second and 10, I should say. 1st and 10, whatever it was. Trey Smith also got beat a couple times in pass protection. And I do want to get into Mitchell Schwartz's tweet about them essentially leaving Trey Smith out to dry. But those plays I'm talking about, it wasn't a stunt. It was just a one-on-one pass protection, and he got beat. It happens. But also, if he wants $20 million a year, he's going to have to be better at pass protection because this team doesn't need a stud run blocker that's struggling with pass protection. This team, we talk about the issues at tackle. Well, yeah, but guard to guard, they're solid. Not in pass protection, they're not guard to guard. They're not solid. They've got an issue at right guard right now. He's got to be better at right guard in pass protection. And until he is, and until they feel comfortable, they've got to eliminate the deeper drops. I'm sorry. It takes away some shot plays. But you know what they didn't need in that game? Shot plays to score on their first 5 possessions. Now, play devil's advocate. Well, they got stopped inside the red zone. Well, yeah, you run enough plays, eventually you're going to get stopped. Well, if you had some shot plays and some bigger gains, you don't need to run that many plays and maybe you're scoring touchdowns. Granted, stipulated, agreed. Right now they can't do that. But they have an element where offensively, I think they have room to grow more than they did last year. We'll see what DJ Humphries can do. And by the way, don't dismiss DeAndre Hopkins' impact on this team just because he only had 34 yards and I had him in a parlay to get 40. Don't dismiss that at all, people, or myself. Because I think one of the biggest plays, Mahomes' 33-yard scramble was big, right? Dylan, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I apologize. This has nothing to do with you. You may nail it. Do you know what down and distance it was for Mahomes' 33-yard run? I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't remember either. I went back and looked this morning, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
I want to go 2nd and long, like 2nd and 8.
It's 1st and 10. Now, second one. Second question for you. Do you remember the play right before that?
No.
3rd and 2, the 7-yard quick slant to DeAndre Hopkins. Hit him in the 8, catches the ball, 1st down. Next play, Mahomes does what Mahomes does. They were at their own 38-yard line. If they don't complete that to Hopkins, they're punting with 1:13 to go. Raise your hand if you think the defense keeps them from kicking a field goal. My hands are down, by the way. Both of them are down.
Because Andy's were too. That's why they sat on the football.
I mean, I don't think the defense is stopping them at that point. They didn't stop him to score a touchdown on a 2-point conversion. Now, that was only 49 yards. They got the ball in Chiefs territory, but they went 49 yards. So if they get the ball with 1:20 to play or whatever, we don't think they can go 49 yards to get into field goal range? So,
and you don't think there's going to be a DPI or some, spot foul?
Can they get off the field?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be the first time in 4 weeks that they would have been able to get off the field in that situation. But they didn't have to worry about that because Mahomes, quick snap, or takes a snap, 1 step, looks to his right, boom, right in the 8. And you know who catches it? Hopkins. He ain't dropping the ball. You know the trust that's there? I'm going to throw it to this guy. He's going to catch the ball. We're going to move the chains. You throw it to Justin Watson, maybe he drops it. I don't know. But I know you throw it to DeAndre Hopkins, he's catching the ball. That was one of the biggest underrated plays of the game. They had to convert. And I said to my son, we're watching, it's 3rd and 2. I said, this is the biggest play. If they don't convert, they lose. I said, if they don't convert this 1st down, they lose the game. And he was like, really? It's tied. And I'm like, buddy, they're not going to go for it on 4th and 2 from their own 38. Andy Reid's going to play and trust his defense. He's going to punt it. I said, do you trust this defense to get a stop right now? Now he's ultra optimistic. He's like, yeah, they can win in overtime then. I'm like, they can. I just don't trust that would be the case right now. So the area of improvement and levels of improvement for this team, I know they're getting Omenihu back. I think it starts and stops with the offense.
He ain't Reggie White either.
Right.
He's great. He's a good player.
He's a good player.
But I don't think we should be expecting, Lawrence Taylor.
I push back a little bit like DJ Humphries. I'd love for DJ Humphries to look really good and slide in and overtake Wanya Morris at left tackle and play close to Donovan Smith level in the postseason or close to DJ Humphries level last year. That'd be great. But I saw this the other day, and it was, hey, what can you really expect for DJ Humphries? He's coming off an ACL tear, and he's been at home. Okay. Then why are we thinking Omenihu is going to be an impact? Because he's been working out at the Chiefs facility? Because he practiced last week? He didn't go through training camp. He didn't go through any of the practices this year. He hasn't played. All he's done is work out in rehab at Arrowhead. DJ Humphries is working out and rehabbing on his own. The only difference is he's not with a team. So if we think Omenihu is going to make an impact, then we can't dismiss DJ Humphries' ability to maybe make an impact. And if we don't think DJ Humphries can make an impact because he's coming off an ACL, then stop talking about Omenihu being able to do that. Just because one was at home and the other one was rehabbing at the facility. Neither was practicing or playing.
One had more recovery time, too.
A whole month.
Yeah.
DJ Humphries tore his ACL December 31st. Aminu did it late January. I hope they're both impactful because the Chiefs need them both.
Yeah.
They need them both. Let's bring in Kyle to the conversation, 913-381-0810. Kyle, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, thank you, Jason, for taking my call. Great show, like always.
Thank you for being a part of it, Kyle. Absolutely.
Jason, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm kind of getting tired of the Jaron Taylor show.
Not just you. It ain't just you.
It's becoming – he has good games, and then there are plays where there are plays where he does really good at, and then there are – and then then there's like a next play where he goes, what the heck are you doing, Jaron? It's like what? It's like cat and mouse with this guy. I don't know. Like 1 minute he's like playing good, the other moment it's like I want to rip my hair out. So that's my first point. My second point is George Karlaftis in this defensive line, and I'm not just going to point out George Karlaftis. It's everybody. Chris Jones, I understand he's getting double teamed, but Chris Jones has made some plays this year. But Dick Vermeil said this, I remember, when he was the head coach here. I think it was when Larry Johnson was playing, and Larry Johnson was having problems, and Dick Vermeil said it's time to take the diapers off. It's time to take the diapers off of George Karlaftis and Felix and then Felix Zumba because there should be if Chris Jones is getting double teamed, triple teamed, then why aren't our other guys getting home? George Karlaftis should be getting home. And George Karlaftis, I like the guy. I think he's a good defensive end. I'm not trying to bash the guy, but I think he needs to step up more. This is, his third year in the league. But I like him because he does make good plays. He's impactful, but I feel like he's now starting to take plays off. And I don't know, Jason, because last year, George Karlaftis, he had 10 sacks last year, but he wasn't taking plays off. He was getting to the quarter. I mean, he was getting. I think
the issue you run into. Sorry to cut you off, Kyle, but just on the George Karlaftis front is Karlaftis is a high motor guy, and I think Karlaftis. I've called him the sort of the junkyard dog, the trash man, because the guy that cleans up the defensive rebounds for your team. You know, a defensive stop in basketball doesn't end until you grab the rebound. All right, that's the last part of defense is grabbing the rebound and bringing it down. If you don't grab the rebound, you haven't done your job on defense. The other team still has the ball. Karlaftis is a guy that I feel like grabs the rebound. He's not going to be out pressuring on the edge in basketball, on the wing, I should say. He's not going to be the one-on-one defender. He's not going to be the rim protector. He's going to be the guy that just, hey, the ball's in the air, I'm reading the ball, and I'm going to go and grab the rebound. With George Karlaftis, if the secondary is getting beat as quick as it is, I don't think George Karlaftis' skill set are there to shine with this team if they don't have a little bit more time to get to the quarterback. He's a guy that, to me, is more of a workhorse, high motor guy, kind of a Tamba Hali. His sacks come from cleaning up other people's pressure and being in the right position to do that, while also good, secondary coverage. He's not a guy that's just going to win one-on-one quickly and create the pressure, and that's an issue for this team because they're not defending long enough in the secondary, and he's not winning quick enough in his one-on-ones against the tackle when Chris Jones is being double-teamed. I think that's just reality with who George Karlaftis is. It's the reason he was a late first-rounder, not a top 15 pick.
Gotcha. And, okay, so that makes sense. But what I do like about George Karlaftis, though, he does stay home. He does keep his outside contained, and he keeps the quarterback in the pocket.
Yeah.
So I've always said this. If you do the little things right, the big things are going to come. And I think that's when George Karlaftis, and like you just said, but that's what George Karlaftis. But I love George Karlaftis because he plays so good fundamental football, and that's why I don't like bashing him because he is such a good fundamental guy.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm going to make it to my third point,
Yep, go ahead.
Jason, and I would like to make my third point here. With Hopkins, he has been an impact player, like you said earlier. Yeah, okay, he's not getting 100 yards. But what he is doing is, we have defenses have got now a new problem now. We got to cover this guy, and then that's leaving Kelsey and Noah Gray open. It's leaving other guys wide open like Justin Watson. I don't know, Jason, if it's just me or not, but do you think Justin Watson has stepped up the player this year at wide receiver? Because when he's on the field and when the ball comes to him, he's not dropping the ball as much. He hasn't had. I think he's only had one or two drop passes.
He had one in this game, unfortunately.
I know, and it was a big one too.
Yeah.
I think he would have gone big too if he didn't drop it. But that's unfortunate, but that happens. But do you think Justin Watson has been a big part of this team stepping up? Do you think he's been a player that stepped up this year? And thank you for taking my call, Jason. I'll listen off the air, but I think. But with Hopkins, it's getting the rest of our guys open. I'll listen off the air. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely, Kyle. Thank you for being a part of the show. I would say with Hopkins, I agree with that. Justin Watson, I think I don't want to come off as dismissing Justin Watson. He had a great block yesterday for Patrick Mahomes' long run. Okay, and Dan Orlovsky on Twitter went and broke it down, did the video of Justin Watson, who works hard, and he's where he's supposed to be on every play. Justin Watson is a little bit like the teacher's pet. Sometimes teachers have favorites. Does it mean they're the best in the class? Does it mean that they're smarter or more talented than the other kids? It means that sometimes you have your favorites. I think Justin Watson is the teacher's pet. I think he's one of the favorites of Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, and therefore he gets on the field because they trust him to be there. He doesn't have the surest of hands that people sort of assume he does. I mean, against the Bills last week, he dropped the ball. The ball hit the ground. They didn't review it. They should have. In this game, he had another drop. Like he doesn't have the surest of hands. He does from time to time. He makes some big catches. But I think he's pretty generic, and I don't know that he's on another team. I certainly don't think he's starting on another team this year because he wouldn't go into that team and be the teacher's pet. He'd go into that team and be competing with other receivers. So I think there are things that Justin Watson does well that the Chiefs like, but I don't think he's somebody that improves the team while he's out there from a passing game perspective in terms of production. The Chiefs feel like he improves the team because he's going to run the route he's supposed to run, which then is designed to help other routes. They trust that he's going to do that. That's why he plays as much as he does. I think he's okay. I think he's fine. I don't think he's a problem, but he's also not a solution or anything. It's not like, hey, you need to get the ball to Justin Watson more. I think you can try to get the ball to Noah Gray more. I think we've seen that the last couple of weeks. I think that can be an option. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously an option. He ain't dropping the ball. Xavier Worthy, more of the plays that they had in this game instead of just trying to take shot plays with him. That quick out 12 yards, that's easy. The cornerback's not going to run with Xavier Worthy and then expect him to cut straight out to the sideline. He's running, going to keep up as in like, he's running deep. I better, whoops, he cut out to the sideline. Beautiful timing route. I can't stop that. It hits him right when he's cutting outside. 12 yards, move the chains. Those are the things that I think Xavier Worthy can do that they're not doing enough of with him. I don't mind taking some shots from time to time, But I think you can use him different ways that can take advantage of his overall ability as a wide receiver. We need to take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling, get back into your phone calls. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. We'll hear from Trey Smith. We'll hear from Nick Bolton. We'll hear from Mick Schaefer. All three of those guys had impacts in the game yesterday. Mick Schaefer with a huge impact in his prediction of 30-27, and then Trey Smith and Nick Bolton actually playing the game. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. At noon, we'll hear from Trey Smith. We'll hear from Nick Bolton. Right now, back to the phone lines. Chris next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB on this Victory Monday. Chris, welcome to the show. Go right ahead. How are you, sir?
Good, man. How we doing today?
I'm doing just fine, actually. Doing just fine. It's Thanksgiving week, and it's all good in the hood.
Yes, sir. Hey, so listen, the Chiefs are 10-1, and I have not even worn my Zubas pants or my DT jersey at all this year.
And they're still winning.
We're in great shape. But my point of that is I honestly think that Andy Reid, in his game planning, he thinks he can win without wearing Zubas pants and a DT jersey. Does that make sense?
Oddly enough, yes.
He is literally – I think he has so many wrinkles that I hear you guys talk about it, but I think he literally has wrinkles in his offenses that he is not going to show whatever, no matter who he's playing, even Buffalo. It's like he knows we can lose to Buffalo. The Chiefs are literally – they're already in the playoffs, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they're in the playoffs, yes. It's just a matter of what seed they get. Are they the 1 or the 2 seed? That's the only question.
Literally, I don't think he cares. I know they're winners, and it's hard to coach winning out of people. Like Mahomes is a winner for sure. He wants to win every game. But a coworker and I were talking this morning. Mahomes is becoming more and more like Tom Brady. It's literally whatever he has to do to win. And they're out there just to win the game. They're not out there to wow us. They're 10-1. They're 10-1. It's insane. We gotta just temper the expectations. This is what we're gonna get from this team, and it could be another Super Bowl win. What do you think?
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate the phone call. I'm with you. I mean, I started my show, talking about this team and being spoiled to a degree that we can complain about a win, but being experienced so much of watching the postseason in that we know the margin of victory is so small. Margin of error, I should say, is so small. And margin of victories, too, is so small that 1 or 2 of these mistakes will cost you what could be, a dream season and winning 3 consecutive Super Bowls. And to your point about Patrick Mahomes, yeah. I mean, the Chiefs have now won their 11 games this year, and going back to the Super Bowl last year, so those 12 games, they have 6 of those wins that took place on the final play of the game. 6 of the last 10 wins have come on the final play of the game. The Super Bowl, 6 of the last 11 wins, I should say. The Super Bowl, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Denver Broncos, and the Carolina Panthers. Those are 6 wins out of their 11 going back to the Super Bowl, 10 this year and the Super Bowl last year. 6 of those have happened on the final play. They've won all of them. Mahomes has something to do with that. Now, the blocked field goal, there you go. Baltimore's late touchdown, that was out of bounds. Whatever. Tampa Bay overtime, Cincinnati getting the field goal drive, Carolina field goal drive, Super Bowl field goal drive, and then overtime as well. Let's bring in John to the conversation, 913-3810810. John, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. How are you?
To you as well, sir. I am doing just fine. Hope you're doing well.
Fine, thank you. Not to sound like all of us are nitpicking, I think we've created our own monster because, we've raised the bar, and that's understandable. But with that being said, I don't think people are overreacting or nitpicking because there's a pattern. Mm-hmm. There's a pattern going on. Not so much even the close games, which is a pattern, but there's also a pattern that our offensive line is terrible.
Yeah.
That's why we should worry, because there's a pattern with it. And a few calls ago, you were talking about, the drop passes. Here I am nitpicking. But what's up with Kelsey sometimes? I mean, he dropped 2 yesterday. One where he was so wide open, no one around him, that I remember the commentator saying, I don't think he was expecting the ball. And I thought,
I think that was a no look from Mahomes. I think I'd have to go back and watch it again, but I think Mahomes was looking to the right and then threw it to Kelsey. And it was Kelsey did have to reach for it, and then Kelsey almost looked at Mahomes like, "Hey, man, like I didn't expect." And then he was mad at himself and clapped. But I remember that exact play. Yes, he was open. Mahomes was scrambling to his left. Almost looked like Mahomes was looking across the field, and then fired it to Kelsey right over the middle. Probably didn't need a no look, but I'd have to go back and check it out again if it was a no look pass. But at first it looked like Kelsey was a little annoyed with Mahomes and then mad at himself. But yes, I know the exact play you're talking about.
No big deal. And one more thing, and then I'll hang up and let. I almost thought it was a misprint. I had to look twice. Again, I'm the biggest Chiefs fan ever, like everybody else. And, all these close games, you just got done talking about it, the 6 of the last play, all that. Do you realize that the Chiefs this Friday are 13.5-point favorite against the Raiders?
Yeah.
I'm not a betting man, but what fool is going to give you the Raiders and 13.5 points? I'm sorry. Hey, listen, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, man. Take care.
To you as well, John. I appreciate it. Your point about the pattern is absolutely spot on. It comes off as nitpicking 100%, but as I said, a win is a win. You never apologize for that. Andy Reid talked about that in the postgame. Spoiled from the standpoint of being nitpicking a win, but experienced enough to know that these patterns can get you in the postseason. And last year, the patterns did not get them in the postseason. They did not drop the ball. They did not turn the ball over to the degree that they were doing that in the regular season. And they won those games. Amos, wrapping us up here on a 11 o'clock hour. Amos, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
I just want to say I love my Chiefs. And I don't care if they win by 1, by 2, by 3, by 4, by 5. A win is a win. Like you said, you can see it on Andy Reid's face. I think they'll be fine. Come out here and live in Cleveland, Ohio, and the Browns fans will trade you in a second. So 100%. Your audience, and I love all your guys' shows because I'm a truck driver, so I listen to you guys constantly. But, dude, 31 other teams would love to be in our position. Would love to be in the Kansas City Chiefs position. So I think some fans just need to relax a little bit. The famous quote from Aaron Rodgers, relax, boys, we'll be okay. Other than that, that's all I got to say, man.
Amos, I appreciate the phone. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the phone call. Thank you for listening and doing what you do as well. Love the truck drivers out there that listen in all day to the shows here. I mean, there are a lot of teams that would love to trade places with the Chiefs right now, and I think we can acknowledge that. And I think there's an element of not even like it is just 100% the Chiefs are graded against themselves. Like you grade them against what we know a Super Bowl team looks like and what it takes to win in the postseason, and then we grade on a curve. And it is difficult to live up to those standards, to grade on a curve and to compare yourself to what we watched the final 4 games of the season last year when we remember the successful times and winning and forget they survived the Jets last year, right? Forget some of those plays along the way that you're like, man, how in the world did you not take care of that team and destroy that team? How'd you lose to the Raiders on Christmas Day? Like, we talk about the Raiders on Christmas Day a lot. And then they went on to win the Super Bowl. And then they win a game close, and we forget about the Raiders on Christmas Day last year and some of the others because we don't know what the story has in store for us this year. We know what the story was last year, so it's easier to talk about the Raiders as the turning point. But we don't know because the story might be tackles in the season for the Chiefs because they couldn't protect. Secondary got torched. Defense couldn't get off the field. They lost the game. And that's where the frustration, the concern comes in. And, it's understandable from that standpoint because you're graded on a curve and you're graded against yourself. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. Field Yates coming up at noon. More Zone next. Fulton. Today, play some sound from Andy Reid from yesterday's game and Patrick Mahomes as well, and what they had to say about the win against the Carolina Panthers. The offense scoring on 5 straight possessions to start the game. We talked about last week their issues in the beginning of the game, their issues in the first quarter, and the issues on the first 2 drives. Well, they scored on the first 2 drives, and then 3 more. Matt Nagy talked about the urgency. Patrick Mahomes talked about the urgency. They worked on it. It came through. Hopefully that is the start of a trend of this team performing well and having an urgency at the beginning of the game. Defensive issues, we'll talk about that as well, but Field Yates comes up next.
the news. He's on TV more often than he's in bed. He'll break down the NFL without a single hair ever out of place. It's Field Yates of ESPN. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. No Andy Reid today with a short week for the Chiefs playing on Red Friday, not Black Friday. Got to change that. It's the Raiders in town. Red Friday coming up. So we will not have Andy Reid today. He'll talk on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Patrick Mahomes and the coordinators will talk. We'll hear from Trey Smith and Nick Bolton coming up later on this hour. Mick Schaefer from the 1 o'clock hour. Right now, let's hear from Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. Field Yates joining us. Field, what's up? How are you, sir?
Jason, how are you, my friend? Kind of a weird week, right? I guess this would be the equivalent of Wednesday right now of a football week, but instead it's actually Monday and the game is on Friday. All very funky week with the NFL instituting this Black Friday game 2 seasons ago.
Yes, that's right. It's always funny. We get so used to around here when the Chiefs don't play on Sunday, and we're like, well, it's a Wednesday for us, but it's a Tuesday for the Chiefs, or it's a Thursday for us, but the Chiefs are treating this like a Friday, so we've got this going on. It's like we'll hear from this person today and this person tomorrow because it's a different week, and yeah, it's all different this week. Typically, we get a Monday press conference with Andy Reid assessing after seeing the game film and everything, but not the case today. We'll hear from him on Wednesday, and he'll assess the game film while also looking forward to the challenge of the Las Vegas Raiders on Friday. But they win against the Panthers, 30-27. It's been a while since the Chiefs have won a game that felt like a loss. You got to go all the way back to last year. But what do you take away from this game? The Chiefs go on the road and beat the Panthers 30-27.
Yeah, Jason, I could really like nitpick and say, hey, like this team needs to play better, or else I'm not convinced that they can get the job when it matters, get the job done when it matters most. I guess the thing that I keep coming back to is, sure, it would be great, as Patrick Mahomes said after the game yesterday. We would love some blowouts. I understand why. I think everybody's mind would be a lot more at ease. But you mentioned last year, and I'm not too young to remember that last year a switch was seemingly flipped in the playoffs. And this team became a much more different version of itself. And they still have the inside track on the number 1 overall seed in the AFC with an assist to the the Cleveland Browns on Thursday night, tripping up the Steelers, which takes one of the top competitors down a notch. So do I think that it's perfect? Far from it. From a global standpoint, for a team that's going to be measured not by how they look during the regular season, but how far they go in the playoffs, I don't think my temperature has changed dramatically for the Chiefs, despite what we saw yesterday in Carolina.
I feel like that's what's going on around here is this sort of back and forth pendulum swing. And I think even with individual people, like it's not just, hey, you've got one group of people Field that nitpicking and everything's wrong with this team, and you got another group that's like, hey, it's all good because they're 10-1. I think even by the individual, they may be going back and forth. Like I talked today, started off my show, discussing this team and winning the game. And, last week, the conversation that I had about, hearing from Carolina that they were viewing this as somewhat of an organizational, turning opportunity for them, that they got an opportunity to really turn the organization a flashpoint for Dave Canales and these players and their trajectory. And you got the Super Bowl champs. You've won 2 in a row. You're coming off a bye. And the Chiefs lose to Buffalo, and they're getting ready for the Panthers. Like, there's a part of me that looks at it and says, obviously you don't apologize for a win in the NFL. Andy Reid said that to his team in the locker room. And so, the Chiefs team has done this in the regular season before, and they've won the Super Bowl. So I start off my show talking about that while also Field acknowledging that I think the Chiefs fans can be spoiled because we've seen so many wins, and not winning by enough sometimes does not it's not very satisfying. But I think while being spoiled, Field, there's also a knowledge and an experience of going through the playoffs and an understanding that, yes, the Chiefs have found ways to win these games, but margin for error is so slim, you can't just simply expect them to overcome their flaws each and every game through the postseason. And I understand why there can be concern with the flaws that we're seeing with this Chiefs team.
Yeah, I believe fundamentally that, like in life, living with a process-oriented mind is better than a results-oriented mind. because, typically you have a sound process that's going to lead to sound results. Occasionally you don't have a sound process that will get you to some sound results, but, the odds tend to favor those who focus on the process. I think the reality for the Chiefs is they've just had too much success that we can measure them based off the process now anymore. Like, it's going to have to be the results, right? The Chiefs could be 9-1 with a plus 3,000, 10-1 with a plus 3,000 point differential. But if they slip up in the first round of the playoffs, no one's going to remember the fact that they skated through the regular season, right? In the same way that, I understand that it's just a year removed. So we do recall how they kind of found their way during last regular season. But I don't know, 10 years from now, 25 years from now, it's going to go down as another Super Bowl winning season. I know that's probably a bit reductive, and maybe it's not what Chiefs fans want to hear today because of the fact that this team did need all 60 minutes to get by a 3-8 football team in the Panthers. But I think a lot of the factors that you highlighted are important. The Chiefs are going to get every team's best shot every single week, because the Chiefs are going to represent something to every team that's like a little bit different, right? For Buffalo, it's going to be, are we good enough to actually make a run, or are we just going to get to the playoffs and then be dismissed once again by Kansas City? For Carolina, it's, we've won 2 straight games, and we feel like we're making some progress, and Bryce Young is playing some better football, but are we really making progress, or do we just beat 2 bad teams? And, I think Carolina went out there yesterday with very little to lose and some to gain. I might argue they had a moral victory yesterday, which are hard to find in the NFL. So the Chiefs, it's not a trap; it's a responsibility. I think it's something that it's a privilege as well in some ways. There's this clip that's been going around on social media from that NBA show that follows the players through the season, the NBA's version of quarterback, and it was the Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla talking about how. Someone asked a question to the effect of, like, what do you make of the I can't remember if it was like the expectations or if it was like, is it fair that Jason has to deal with, these comparisons to great players when he, is the best player in the championship team, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, no, he gets to deal with that, right? For the Chiefs, is it fair that they get the team's best shot every single week? Fair. Who cares about fair? It's a privilege for them because it means they are 3-time Super Bowl champions in the past 5 years, and the measuring stick for everybody else in the one sport right now that is designed to not have parity, and yet they have broken the model, and that's the responsibility they're going to have to bear for as long as this run continues. And a decade straight of double-digit wins for this Chiefs team in the regular season, and that's not some small feat in. Not at all. In what you're talking about, an NFL that is designed to take an 11-win team and bring them back to 8, and a 5-win team and push them up to 8. That is what the NFL wants to do, and this Chiefs team has continued to stand out above the rest and be the basis of comparison for a lot of teams. And one of the things I pointed out earlier in the show, Field, is, maybe a little bit of comfort is, I joked and I said, for a game like this that felt like a loss but it was a win, you got to go all the way back to last year against the Jets when Zach Wilson tore them up. And I said, and you lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day, and even before 2023, you got to go all the way back to 2022 when you lost to the 4-12 Colts. And you still won a Super Bowl, or before that you got to go all the way back to 2021 when you beat the 2-5 Giants by 3 to move to 4-4. And you went to the AFC Championship game, or the year before that. The theme here, right, is you're not going to go through a season and play great football, for 16, 17 weeks. It's a matter of the process and getting better. And so for the fans that are, and us in the media and analysts nitpicking or looking at their flaws, I ask you, how concerning then, as we compare them not only to themselves but other teams in the AFC that they will have to face and get by in the postseason, how concerning are the issues to you of protecting Patrick Mahomes and an inability to get to the quarterback? And this defense has regressed a pretty decent margin over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and they haven't been able to get off the field on a team's final drive 3 weeks in a row now. Yeah. 4 weeks in a row, excuse me. 4 weeks in a row. On the defense one, I can't quite decide if I'm like utterly concerned. And here's the reason why, is like last Sunday, as in 8 days ago, they played, I think, inarguably one of the best teams in the NFL, right? And Josh Allen is on the short list for best quarterbacks alive, not named Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
them, and they were hyped as all get out to play in that game and find a way to see if they could upset the Chiefs. So I'm not going to toss away last week in the sense that, like, you know, you have to account for every game, but I also feel like, you know, really good defense plays really good offense. Sometimes the offense gets the better hand, right? Yesterday, a bit more concerning. I might chalk yesterday up more, and maybe Jason again, and you and I talk about this not every week, but a lot of weeks, is that, you know, I'm sitting here glancing at all 32 teams. I'm studying all 32, and you know, the trials of the Chiefs feel like nothing compared to some of the teams that I am watching around the league, which feel completely rudderless, without talent. You know, coaching is misguided, yada, 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 right? So the defense yesterday, I might chalk up to more of, you know, I don't know how much they were really fearing a Bryce Young-led offense compared to a Josh Allen-led offense, or, you know, some of the offenses they might face in the playoffs, whether it's, once again, Lamar Jackson, whether it's in the Super Bowl against Jared Goff or Jalen Hurts again, right? It's a little easier to let your guard down when you're facing a team who, while Bryce Young was the first overall pick a year ago, he was also benched, you know, week 3 of this season. So maybe yesterday will end up proving as just, the iron wasn't as sharp as it needed to be, but it'll either ramp up a notch when they play a more difficult offensive foe, or yesterday can be a bit of a wake-up call that this Friday, the last thing you want to do is spoil your Thanksgiving holiday weekend by not taking care of business against, you know, a team that, while, you know, they're certainly struggling, this is a team that last year upset the Chiefs' Christmas. So maybe that's what the defense needs to kind of find its footing once again.
Yeah, and they'll be going up against what is expected to be Aiden O'Connell coming off the IR and playing this week because Gardner Minshew is now out for the season with the collarbone injury. So we'll see what the Raiders will present this week. They shouldn't present much of an issue for the Chiefs, but, you know, Carolina, et cetera. You know, I think there is an element of, like, how much from this standpoint, Field, like if they're facing off against the Jags and this happens, I would be a little more concerned if they played this game yesterday against the Jags and it looked like that, because it feels like the Jags are heading in the wrong direction, playing out the string. Coaches, they're going to fire the coach, the quarterback dealing with some issues. Offensively, Gabe Davis is on the shelf. You know, they've made some different moves and everything. And the Panthers feel like, hey, they've won 2 in a row. They've got a new coach. Are they believing in Bryce Young? They're getting Jonathan Brooks back. The defense went and got some players and a new D coordinator. Chuba Hubbard got his contract extension. Adam Thielen is back. They like what Xavier Legette is bringing them. There's a different feel to the Panthers. I'd be almost more concerned if they went up against a team that was 2-8, 3-8, and it had a lot of expectations and they're going the wrong way, rather than a team that is this record and it feels like they're ascending to a degree.
I would completely agree with that statement. Not all 3-8 teams are treated equally, is what I would say. And, you know, I've actually used the Carolina Panthers as an example as we discuss some of the other teams that are bottom feeders in the NFL right now. Is this team better than it was a month ago? Yes. Is this team better than it was 2 months ago? Obviously, right? So, you know, again, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, you know, the Chiefs are thrilled that they snuck out of, you know, Carolina yesterday with a 3-point win. But, you know, if I just can't get that dispirited by it. You know, I just can't. I watched Pittsburgh lose on Thursday night to a Browns team that had won 2 games going into that one, right? You know, you see teams that are flying high. San Francisco already has 6 losses this season, right? I mean, the Chiefs, by the end of the night tonight, could be, 3 full games up over the Chargers and the Broncos with a game in hand on both of them, which means that, like, we're talking about the Chiefs having the AFC West potentially wrapped up by week 14. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. So, you know, there's some things that have to happen to get there, obviously. But I guess my bigger point is that, you know, this is the reality that this team is going to live with, whether this lasts for just this year or for the next, more likely, you know, 12 or so years. It's that high standards, but to whom much is given, much is expected. And the reality is that we're going to end up analyzing them through a much, much different lens than any other team. Maybe not just in football, but like in professional sports right now.
Yeah, they're graded on a curve, and they're graded against themselves whenever they go out and play. You're right. Steelers lost to the 2-8 Browns. Texans lost at home to the 2-8 Titans. Commanders lost to the 3-7 Cowboys at home. Vikings beat the Bears in overtime. You know, I mean, the Raiders have 2 wins this year. One of them's in Baltimore, you know, and that's a team that, you know, is one of the best in the AFC. So Field Yates is our guest. I wanted to get your thoughts on this before we let you go. Saquon Barkley has just been amazing this year. He's now the 3rd betting favorite to win the MVP. You know, I doubt that happens. It seems like it's Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson right now. We don't give MVPs to running backs anymore, but are we seeing just as Saquon Barkley is a jumping off point, but are we seeing a resurgence of the importance of a running back? Derrick Henry in Baltimore, Josh Jacobs in Green Bay. I think Joe Mixon is a big part of how good that Houston team is. When Joe Mixon is playing well and picking up yards, that Houston team that offense is different. You know, are we seeing the resurgence of a running back being a bigger part of an offense and maybe getting a little more respect than just they're a dime a dozen and don't pay anybody because they can all do whatever the offensive line allows them to do?
Man, I'm not so sure I can land definitively on one side or the other for this reason. You know, Kareem Hunt was on the couch 2 months ago or whatever it was, 2.5 months, and he's been a vital cog in the Chiefs' success. Yeah. So here's what I would say is elite young running backs often do merit, you know, strong compensation. The reality is that if running backs at the top of their market were being paid like what a pass rusher was being paid at the top of the market, it might not be as useful, right? Because while these guys are incredible, I've seen multiple games this season where Derrick Henry, as an example, has been phased out of it because the Ravens are playing from behind. Like, would you say it's a good thing if the Chiefs made Chris Jones the highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL, I think in NFL history, and he played 50% of the snaps, right? So it's just different. Yes, we've seen some really bad running back contracts, but right now, like the $13 million per year deal or $12.5 million per year deal for Saquon Barkley, it's big relative to running backs, but it's like, what's the real harm, right? If they screw it up, like $12.5 million, that's literally like a tight end these days, right? Like that's like one of the going rates for solid tight ends, not named Travis Kelce or George Kittle. So I'm kind of 2 minds. Like I think we can evaluate this with a little bit more nuance than I think often is suggested, typically on Twitter, which, as you know, completely devoid of context. So no surprise there.
For sure. Last one for you. What do you think happens on Red Friday against the Raiders? They are 13-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick against the Chiefs here. I will say this: for as much as I am sort of unbothered by some relatively, less impressive than expected performances. Not only do I think they win on Friday, I think I would like to. I think we'd all like to see a team put it together for 60 full minutes. But there's just no way this Raiders team has the horses offensively to do the job against the Chiefs. It would be goofy turnovers and special teams errors to keep them in this game. So I think the Chiefs win handily. Interested to see whether Isaiah Pacheco makes his season debut this week. Not totally convinced that he will, but if he does, would be a nice spark plug to allow them to take a little bit of the burden off of Kareem Hunt, despite how great he has been filling in this season.
Yep, and then we'll see if Amenahu plays, and then however long it'll take to get DJ Humphries up to speed for him to get out there at left tackle, because they need some help there as well. Field Yates from ESPN NFL Insider. Field, you are the man. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, and we will talk next week, sir.
Jason. Thank you, my friend. Talk to you then.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN, NFL Insider. And I look at this Raiders game, and certainly we'll talk about it over the next couple of days, but I do look at this Raiders game differently than the Panthers. If they play a closer game against the Raiders on Friday, then I would be more concerned than I am against, with the Panthers, because Raiders last year went into that game with an interim coach. They've got a lot to play for to prove that they are going to be an ascending team. They wanted Antonio Pierce to be their guy. They spent all week about, hey, we got a chance to, turn some things around and maybe make the playoffs this year. If we do, like, there was some, conversation at that time about the Raiders, and it was dismissed around here, certainly by me. And it was, it's the Raiders. They're gonna win. They're gonna cover at home. It's Christmas. The Raiders don't care about, they're playing out the string, right? They don't care about any 70,000 things to probably go their way for them to, be in consideration in these last couple of weeks for a playoff spot. I think they were, 7-8 or something like that when they played, but they wanted Antonio Pierce to be their head coach. They made that I think was it the quarterback change at that time? It was Aiden O'Connell. I was like, oh, no, they like Aiden O'Connell. Devontae Adams was like, make a quarterback change from Jimmy G, or I might ask for a trade, right? That was the whole wide receiver thing. They went to Aiden O'Connell, even though O'Connell didn't do anything in that game. But that was a different Raiders team and moment than this year. This has been a bad year. They've traded Devontae Adams. They've gone backwards. They have struggled. Aiden O'Connell injured. Gardner Minshew benched and then put back in the starting lineup. Now he's out for the year with a collarbone injury. Aiden O'Connell coming off the IR to play this week. Running game is awful. They don't have Josh Jacobs like they did last year. We saw these two teams play already. And I think this is one to where I didn't say it last week, and a lot of people did. Hey, the Panthers, you got to get healthy against the Panthers. Panthers are a get-right game. And I pushed back on that last week. I didn't think it was a get-right game for the Chiefs against the Panthers. I saw the Panthers a little bit different, where is the Raiders a get-right game? I think the Raiders are in a position to where early on you can kill the spirit and control that game. Where maybe early on you could have killed the spirit against the Panthers, but they're feeling like they are on the upward swing of their franchise and organization, where the Raiders are on the downward spiral. And is this going to be a one and done for Antonio Pierce? What are the Raiders going to do the rest of the way? Who are they going to get at quarterback? They're 2-9 right now. They are a far cry from being 2-2 with a win against Baltimore and a win at home against Cleveland. Far cry. They lost by 2 touchdowns to Carolina after beating the Baltimore Ravens. Lost by 10 over the weekend. Lost by 15 to the Miami Dolphins. Lost by 17 to the Bengals. Down by double digits to the Chiefs until the final drive when they scored the touchdown to pull within 7. They lost by 5 to the Rams. They lost by 20 to Pittsburgh. Lost by, 2 touchdowns to Denver. It's a spiraling and going backwards Raiders team. That's different than the Panthers. This, to me, is much closer to a get-right game because it looked like the Chiefs were annoyed with how they played against the Panthers. Andy Reid had to say after a win, guys, nobody hangs their head. Nobody hangs their head. Y'all won the game. And Andy Reid is saying, get your heads up. This is a win. This is the National Football League. You don't apologize for winning. It's about winning, keeping this thing rolling. We heard from Andy Reid and that post-game locker room speech. Because clearly his players, his team, was not happy. I love that. I love that they came out of a win not going, cool, did what we need to do, we won the game. They came out of a win looking annoyed and mad that they didn't play better and do what they needed to do to not need a last-second field goal and win against Carolina on the last play of the game for their 5th win this year as time is expiring. Baltimore, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay, Denver, and Carolina. And then you can go to the last game last year of the season in the Super Bowl, winning on the final play. Something to do with Patrick Mahomes in that as well. But I think the Raiders are closer to a get-right game than Carolina was. So that's why there's not as much panic or sky is falling from me, and I don't know that there's a whole lot of that, too. I think there's an element of going back and forth, being of two minds, each individual person, of acknowledging that this team has done this in years past while also saying there are some issues that need to be cleaned up, and a question of if they can be cleaned up. Nothing wrong with looking at this team and nitpicking because you're trying to figure out if this team is a Super Bowl contender. Does this team win the Super Bowl? Not does this team have a great regular season. And to win the Super Bowl, they need to protect Patrick Mahomes. To win the Super Bowl, they're probably going to need to hit on some shot plays, which means protect Patrick Mahomes. To win the Super Bowl, you're going to have to pressure the quarterback. Not only pressuring the quarterback, but to sack the quarterback. You know what's crazy about the sack that they had with Mike Dana? Is that was the punt in the game for the Panthers. The first punt was the sack. The sack in the game by Mike Dana. They finally punted the football. Field goal, you got a sack, 3-and-out punt. No more sacks. Field goal, touchdown, field goal, punt, touchdown. I don't know, man. Just pressure the quarterback. Just pressure the quarterback, right? No. What we've discussed, bring the quarterback down. It ends the drive. The one sack the Chiefs had ended that drive. They punt. And it wasn't even a sack on third down. What were the Chiefs doing when they were getting sacked?
I think
Ending
Bill
drives.
Belichick saying, like, I don't know how many years ago, he was saying it's almost as important that you have pressure as well as the sack numbers because pressure makes quarterbacks make bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't solely rely on pressure.
Yeah.
You have to have a good mixture of both because the pressure that really gets to quarterbacks' heads is because you're sacking the quarterback, you're hitting the quarterback.
Right. And time again, I think Spagnuolo was a little bit hard-headed in that game yesterday of blitz, Bryce Young, third and this, blitz, bring everybody, bring the house, blitz, one-on-one coverage. Okay, well.
And when they pick it up,
yeah,
it's, you know.
But even if it wasn't picked up to a degree, even if it was barely picked up, he had one-on-one with Brian Cook and a wide receiver, one-on-one with Shamari Connor and a wide receiver, one-on-one with Justin Reed and a wide receiver. They are winning those against your safeties. You're leaving them one-on-one against a wide receiver, Xavier Legette and Brian Cook. I'll take Xavier Legette over Brian Cook, over Shamari Connor. And yet, time and time again, kept doing that. Like Bryce Young on third down was 7 of 11 for 103 yards. He was also 11 of 14 for 123 yards and a touchdown and almost 10 yards per attempt when blitzed. And yet still, blitz him. Adjust. You're not getting there, and your one-on-one coverage is not winning. When you're not blitzing, he's not completing passes. So adjust. That's a frustration from yesterday's game specifically. And adjustment at the offensive line, I said it in the first hour. I think this is a team that needs to acknowledge how much they want to have these deeper drops, these 7-step drops out of the shotgun. Because the second half, they went right down the field and scored a touchdown in their first possession. And then their next possession, they were driving down the field. They had 1st and 10 at the 36-yard line of the Carolina Panthers. And they did a play-action, deeper, longer developing play. Mahomes hit his back foot final drop 11 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And then there was pressure. And he had to step up, pressure in his face, threw the ball out to Carson Steele. It was incomplete. Longer developing play. Well, now it's 2nd and 10. Then you have another play where you have a 5-step drop. Juwan Taylor gets beat quickly. Holding penalty. Move him back. Juwan Taylor, legal hands to the face. Declined because you had like a 2-yard gain or a 2-yard loss on a pass play. 3rd and long, sack. It all started with, let's take a shot here. Instead of moving down the field, quick passes, running game, shotgun snap, 2 steps, fire, get the ball out, in rhythm. All right, now let's go deep. And your drive is ended because of pressure that eventually on 3rd down resulted in a sack. Carolina Panthers had 12 sacks on the season this year. They had 5 in this game. That's concerning. That's an issue that has to be fixed because they're not that good at rushing the passer, and they still had 5 sacks. More than 10 pressures combined between the tackles. Juwan Taylor and Wanya Morris. That's got to be better. Hopefully DJ Humphries can make a difference. We'll see. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling more zone next. All right, welcome back in the zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. We will hang out with Mick Schaefer coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Get a little learn funniest best. Text says, why did Fields say he wasn't convinced Pacheco would play this week? You just never know until, they go out there and play. I think a lot of people felt like he was going to play on Sunday. I was fine with him not playing with the short week. I'd certainly like to see him out there this week. So we'll see. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810 text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Let's hear from Nick Bolton, who met with the media just a little bit ago. And Nick Bolton starting off and saying that the Chiefs have a good attitude following an effort that wasn't up to their standards against Carolina.
Yeah, man. Just next game. We got a short week. We kind of got dialing on the Raiders coming up. Some things I think we can clean up that we can kind of bring into this game. I think Coach Spags and on the defensive side of the ball that we can bring to this week. But yeah, man, it's on to the next game. A short week. I got to figure out how to go 1-0 this week.
What are the main things you guys do need to clean up at this point?
Yeah, man. I think just some explosive passes. I think we can work on that. I think that's just everybody working together. Rush, linebackers, deep guys, things all working together, man. The continuity, that's something that we can work on and build on.
Hey, Nick, the offense has relied so much on you guys to win games earlier on. I just wonder how much pride you guys want to take to kind of take your responsibility back here in future weeks and be something the offense can rely upon.
Yeah, I think early in the year, man, we were great in that department. I think after they scored, I think the last couple of games, maybe we've been giving up points. I think, especially in the away games, I think you can kind of take the crowd out of it about getting a stop, getting the ball back to the offense. So I think as we continue to progress as the season goes along, those possessions after the offense scores is something that we can try to minimize points on those possessions.
And real quick, you guys have been so good at tackling most of the season. The last couple of games, it's been a little bit more of an issue. Anything you can put your finger on with that particular part?
Yeah, we just got to find ways to get guys on the ground. I think we're getting population at the ball, which is great. We missed a couple of tackles, but they're not leading to a lot of explosive plays because of the routing to the ball. But I believe that we can get the first guy, get him on the ground, help us get him in some more manageable downs for us.
I thought this game was a little bit better in the tackling department. Chuba Hubbard is a good running back. It was pretty rough last week against Buffalo. And, I talked about it on the air that, look, I think you're going to have to live with the issues that Shamari Connor has in tackling. The issues in not being very good at it. It's just like it's a reality with him. Like, he's made some good plays, but one of the biggest knocks on his game coming out of college was he's not a very good tackler. Not good in the open field tackling, doesn't have great body control, routes to the ball are questionable at times, does not break down good enough, lacks some athleticism at times to make up for some poor routes. And we've seen him get beat in the open field. He made a good tackle yesterday against the Panthers in the open field, or maybe it was like on a screen pass or something that he came up and made the hit, and, the player ended up going down. And I noted that because, look, if there's going to be times where we talk about some issues with Shamari Connor and tackling when he comes up and makes a tackle, then, yeah, credit where credit is due. But I think it's just something you're going to have to live with because I don't see him getting any better anytime soon. This is, 11 games into year number 2 for Shamari Connor. Nick Bolton continued, and he was asked how they've navigated the injuries to the team this year.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit different, but you've been around here long enough, and it's always next man up. And so that's kind of the mindset you have to have. In this league, nobody's playing games completely healthy. I think in the past year, we've been a little bit more fortunate in that department, but it comes to the game of ball, man. So it's next man up, man. It takes offensive 3 on the roster. That's why it's cut that way, and that's why it's managed that way. It's going to take everybody. We're going to need those guys that were on practice squad early in the year to kind of help us out in the back half of the year, and we're going to need the guys that are banged up to get back healthy and to play on them as well. So I think it's part of the game.
Yeah, and it sort of leads me to my second question. I know you guys have been anticipating Charles coming back onto the field. It could happen this Friday. Just what would his sort of return to the lineup do for you all, both on the field and maybe even from a psychological standpoint, knowing what he's been through in terms of the rehab?
Yeah, man. I think it'd be huge, man, for us and for him. Just from a morale standpoint, we're all here when he hurt himself going to the Super Bowl. We understand how important that was for him. So definitely be a problem for both sides of that. Getting back into the lineup. I think I understand that he's a great rusher. He brings that to the table for us. We could definitely use that in that department right now, especially with the guys going in and out the lineup and guys being banged up. And yeah, so he brings that and also brings just some charisma, some energy. He brings his own personality. Coach Reed's big on that, letting the personality show. And he's one of those guys that does that. I think he definitely brings that energetic side to our side of the ball.
Hopefully that happens on Friday. I mean, I think both of those guys that could play this weekend on Friday. Isaiah Pacheco, energy guy. Pop, the juice, the heart. The guy that brings the energy on offense. And, Willie Gay was that guy last year. He was the juice man, right? He was the juice man. He was the guy that brought the juice. We'll see if a minute who can be that guy. Nick Bolton says that preparing for a short week is all just part of playing in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely got family coming in town. Thanksgiving, everybody understands that. But yeah, man, just a short week coming from a away game. Try to get guys healthy as much as we can, and you have to get back in the swing of things. It's a short week. Got a different opponent, completely different outfit. So I think they got a new quarterback as well. I think the quarterback got hurt as well. So we're gonna figure out what we're gonna go in that direction. So a lot of moving parts, but I think that's gonna be the challenges going in this week.
And just with it being Thanksgiving, a great time of the year to kind of reflect on life and stuff. What are you kind of thankful for with everything going on in your life?
Yeah, man, I'm thankful for my family, my inner circle, those that depend on how to get me throughout the week and get me throughout this season. Just health. Health's one of those things that are very fragile, not even just in terms of football. I'm so grateful for that as well.
We'll go next to Vahe Gregorian. Vahe?
Hey, Nick. You guys, for the most part, in your time here and Spag's time, tend to really peak and get better late in the season. I wonder why that's been over the last few years in general, and what gives you confidence that that's going to play out this way now?
Yeah, I think it's just the veteran group of guys that have been here long enough. Understand that you got to continue to try to get better in this back half of this year. So I think we got a lot of guys that are just looking in the mirror, figure out what they can be better at. I think that's a big thing, and also just owning on the game plan and just owning what we're good at. I think we kind of we're multi-defense, we're on a lot of different things, and as you get to the back half of the year, man, you kind of get more numbers and more data on what you're really good at, and just honing in on those things. And yeah, I think we're going to kind of do that as the year progresses.
I hope. I think that's one of the concerns that people have, and I think it's an appropriate concern, is that we've seen Steve Spagnuolo's defenses progressively get better as the season has gone along. This feels like it's heading in the wrong direction as the season has gone along. We haven't really seen that from Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back, and we will hear from Trey Smith, starting right guard, had his press conference a little bit ago. We'll hear from what Trey Smith had to say as they get ready for the Vegas Raiders on Friday. More Zone right after this. Heard from Nick Bolton in the previous segment with his press conference today. No Andy Reid today. We'll hear from Andy on Wednesday. Patrick Mahomes coordinators tomorrow with the short week. Trey Smith had his press conference and started off with Jesse Newell asking about Patrick Mahomes' scramble to set up that field goal.
It's just classic Patrick Mahomes, man, just extending plays and just being the ultimate competitor and finding a way to win and doing whatever it takes for, us to have victory and us to get the win.
I wanted to ask you about not only the sacks, obviously Carolina had 5 of them, but the last one in particular, you guys look like a stunt that they threw at you. Anything in particular stand out to you guys on that one and things that you can fix?
It's the ET game and just something better recognition and, just being a better athlete in the perimeter and just making sure they don't get to the quarterback.
We'll go next to Todd Lebo. Todd?
Hey, Trey, on those kind of things, when Coach says we're going to clean it up, how does cleaning it up work? Is that just film study? Is it stuff on the practice field? Because I know you can't really practice full speed, especially at this time of year. What is the process to go about cleaning those little things up?
Just better recognition in the moment. Obviously, in the situation we're faced, being able to understand, read the defensive mail, and understand what they're presenting to us, and just better awareness in that situation.
Trey, you guys have been so successful late in game situations. What are those moments like when you're taking the field as an offense and Patrick's in the huddle for the first time and just the mental approach you guys have to those situations?
Yeah, I just think the approach is pretty much the same. Just trying to be as focused and locked in the moment, understanding what you need to do at your job and what's required from your job in that situation. I think it requires just elite focus to understand the task at hand. You have a great operator in Patrick Mahomes who's going to coordinate everyone and get everything finely tuned the way we need it to be. And at the end of the day, if we all can just focus on our single role, playing together, football's ultimate team sport, if we all focus on our singular goal and objective, then we'll be able to accomplish our goals and be successful.
The ET game, as he mentioned, the end tackle game, stunt, whatever you want to call it, as Jesse talked about with the stunts there with his with the offense. Mitchell Schwartz tweeted out, quote, "One day we will learn to pick up an ET on the right side in tackle stunt. Today is not that day. Trey is put in an impossible situation every game. Knows it's coming, knows he's going to get no help from Juwan, and is the one who gets picked on and has to deal with defensive ends teeing off on him. It sucks." That's from Mitchell Schwartz on those end tackle stunts. And Trey Smith said, it's just one of those things. You just deal with it. You got to play. You got to pick it up. Matt Derrick asked Trey Smith about the oddball schedule the Chiefs face this week.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like since I've been in the league with Coach Reed, he does an excellent job of making sure we're prepared week in and week out. And, obviously just the way our schedules across the league are just so different now. It takes a couple of amendments and things you have to do a little bit differently. But, Coach Reed does a phenomenal job. The entire coaching staff does a phenomenal job of making sure that we're prepared and ready to go and in tune with our game plan. So for us, our just mental focus has to be extremely sharp. You take nothing for granted with the holiday season coming in, watch what you're putting on your plate, before the game. But ultimately, it just takes a high level of focus and understand that, at the end of the day, we're here to go win a game and we're here to go play on Friday, but just being mentally sharp the entire time.
We'll go next to Vahe Gregorian. Vahe?
Hey, Trey. Just a little bit of the opposite of Sam's question, that those last drives, winning on the last play, can you describe what it feels like over and over again to walk off the field after winning on the last play? Is it relief? Is it assurance? What's the sort of broader feeling of doing that so often?
Yeah, there's a lot of parity in this league, and anytime you get a W, anytime you get a win, you're going to be happy and excited about it. Being able to walk off the field and get the dub in that fashion is always cool. But at the end of the day, there's so much parity in this league. I can't reiterate that enough. Anytime you can get a win, you're going to be happy about it. And they're very hard to come by in this league, and we'll take a W on that scoreboard any single time we get it.
And I'm sure fans get frustrated with, these late endings, but for you guys, does it do something for you to keep winning this way? Is there some aspect to it that girds you for more?
Yeah. I think just as a competitor and as a professional playing this sport, the more you win, the better you feel, man. When we step in that field, our objective every single time we step in the field, week in or week out, is to get that W at the win column. And just making sure we do that. Obviously, it's a great thing. It's a great feeling. Regardless, when you get a win, you're doing something right.
They got to win. did enough right in the game to win and knock off the Panthers. Last one, Trey Smith was asked about Noah Gray's emergence.
Yeah, to me, it's not a surprise. I mean, I take it back to like the Senior Bowl, watching how Noah operated that entire week, the professionalism, how serious he takes his craft, how hard he works week in and week out. You know, the results are there, and he's worked his tail off for it every single time. Really close friend, great teammate, great human being, great person. Just really excited to keep watching him grow and keep watching him really prosper and flourish as he is.
Just to follow up on that, Trey, whether for you or a lot of the guys in the locker room, what was it like when, you know, Noah gets rewarded with the contract right before the season starts, and then he, you know, obviously has even better production. Obviously, this is career statistics throughout the, you know, cross of the season so far. We haven't even gotten to Thanksgiving, but for him to sort of back it up after being rewarded with the new contract.
Yeah, man, like I can't reiterate it enough. Noah's a hard worker, great teammate, great human being, and to see that get rewarded from a financial standpoint is amazing. It's awesome. Super happy for him. Well-deserved. Like I said, he works his tail off. There's a lot of things Noah does that sort of goes unseen a lot of times. He's been doing it for years, and for him to get that credit and to get the award once again, I couldn't be happier for him and his family. And, you know, it's well-deserved. And like I said, I love watching Noah great ball. I love watching him do his thing. And he's going to continue to be a great player as he has been.
We'll go last one to Matt Foster. Matt?
Hey, Trey, second meeting with the Raiders this season. What are some of the challenges and maybe even some of the benefits of facing a team for the second time in a season, and what kind of different prep goes into that?
Yeah. Obviously, it's a rivalry game, an AFC West opponent, guys we're familiar with, played multiple times in my career. And with that, you know, as familiar as we are with them, they're familiar with us as well. And it's always a competitive battle. Have a lot of respect for that organization, that team as well. They always play tough. You know, they have a lot of great ball players up front as well. And, you know, some of the challenges are, you know, the tendencies that they know that we have, we know that they have. You know, it's sort of that trade-off there where it's like, okay, we sort of play these guys, we have a feel for them. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a tough game. Like I said, AFC West opponent. The familiarity with your opponent is definitely a big part of it. But it's going to be a tremendous challenge up front, and we'll be prepared for it, and they'll be prepared for us. And like I said, I can't give them enough praise and respect for how they play the game.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Red Friday against the Raiders. Noah Gray's contract, how he's played, I went and looked it up. Noah Gray, dating back to last week, leads all tight ends in touchdowns with 4. Dating back to last week, because he said 4. I actually didn't look it up. I'm just assuming that there's no other tight end that's had 5 touchdowns in 2 weeks. That's just a fact. That's a fact. Noah Gray leads the league of all tight ends in touchdowns in the last 2 games. Take that, Brock Bowers. Yeah. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will talk with Mick Schaefer. Mick Schaefer, the guy who picked the Chiefs to win by 20, I think. Ugh, what a terrible selection by Mick Schaefer. 20-point win for the Chiefs. He was so stupid. He was so dumb. I think he said 50-27. Chiefs are going to score every time. They're going to score touchdowns the whole time. This won't be a close game at all. I think that's what he said. I'll check. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It is a Victory Monday, I think. You know what? I know. I'm convinced it's a Victory Monday because they scored more points than their opponent yesterday. And you can go to Johnny's Tavern, dine in only, $30 off. Not $30 off, but 30% off. Well, you know what? If it's $100.
If you do the math.
It's $100. Yeah, you get 30% off. Dine in only, large specialty pizza at any of the Johnny's Tavern locations. 30% off with the Chiefs scoring 30 points yesterday.
Some of us knew the score on Friday. Some of us knew it was going to be a Victory Monday a few days ago.
27-30 Chiefs, right? That's what you had?
I wanted to murder somebody more. Sterling's not even here.
I know, right? Murder somebody. That's weird. He's down in Florida. It's odd. No, but well done. The scores, Sterling picked it 28-17, them covering.
God.
Dylan had 30-17. He was 10
Close.
points off.
Well, just one digit off.
One digit off. That's right.
Off, yeah.
I had it 24-14, not covering, and you had them winning 35-10.
Was that it?
Or 30-27. 30-27, Mick Schaefer. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done, sir. You got it right. Still waiting for that 37-17 to hit, but 30-27.
That's the first score I've gotten right since Super Bowl 54.
Oh, you got the Super Bowl 54 right?
Oh, I talk about it all the time. You know that.
Never knew that.
Yeah. 49-12, right? That was it?
Yeah, you got it right. 49-12, Super Bowl 54. Nice job, man.
When was the last time? How often do we get them right? I don't keep track. Have you got some recently?
I've never gotten the exact
I feel if he would have
right.
got it right, he would not have shut up about it, so he probably
100%,
hasn't. Yeah.
100%. You know, I tried to tell everybody. I tried to tell everybody that Ladd McConkey's a good route runner. Oh, you were the one? You were the one trying to tell everybody Ladd McConkey's a good route runner? Well, I nailed it, man. But well done, Mick. It was 27-19, and the Panthers were driving, and I'm like, even before you texted
Good
us.
for you remembering the
Dude,
scores,
like,
because I don't remember anybody else's scores.
I'm like, holy bleep, Mick had it 30-27. I do remember that one because I wrote it down like, okay. And then you were like, I've watched this Chiefs team before. I'm going to go ahead and pick 30-27. We're like, all right, you idiot.
It's
like,
and I remember you guys said, like, if he doesn't get this exactly right, he's not on the show anymore.
No, we did say that. Yeah, we did say that. The script was there. You got an advanced copy of the script. Nice
I did.
job.
I knew ahead of time, and it took a let's see, they didn't miss the 2-point conversion earlier, right? They got the penalty, and then they had to kick it,
and they got the refs gifted them a point.
Yes,
I mean they gave them a point because it should have been.
Was that the Justin Reed?
Justin Reed.
What a horrible call!
He hit Thielen too hard.
He hit him too hard in the NFL,
and so they got half the distance. Then they false started. And then they kicked the extra point.
That whole entire crew, whether it was unnecessary roughness,
they're so good, aren't they?
Whether it was holding, whether it was what were the other things, they just guessed. They were a guessing crew.
Face mask.
The face mask.
That
I'm just going to guess,
Chiefs.
and I'm going to err on the side of me going back into my pocket, my waistband, and tossing this little yellow flag on the field.
Yep, the hold on Joe Thuney when there was second down and 1 at the 5, and Kareem Hunt went to his right, and I still haven't seen an angle of an actual hold there with Joe Thuney, to the point that the defender was surprised that they called a hold. When the defender is not looking and asking for the holding call, just runs and then turns around, looks at the flag, and is like, "What's the flag for?" You got held. That's. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I totally got held.
Even Horn, was it J.C. Horn? Even he was like, I didn't even see it, and he bitched about every call.
Yeah, exactly.
He got there 2 seconds early on Hopkins one time and lost his mind.
On that quick route,
Yes.
It's like, no, that's a pass interference, man. That absolutely was PI. They didn't call the PI when they got there early on Travis Kelce, but they called it on DeAndre Hopkins. No, the script is in. Last night, we saw the script. I don't know if you saw this or not. The pic. I hope this isn't somebody's Learn Funniest Best. If it is, I apologize. There was a picture that they were doing in pregame there at SoFi last night, and somebody that was there and just took a picture. There was no crowd or anything in there, and the scoreboard said, "End of the first quarter, 0.00, Rams 7, Eagles 3." It was 7-3 at the end of the first quarter last night. Someone was like, script. They let out a little bit of the script that was unfortunate. They didn't mean for somebody to tweet that picture out of just saying, "Hey, look at SoFi Stadium, blah blah blah," and then in the top right you see the scoreboard 7-3.
Right down the street.
You're right, 7-3 at the end of the first quarter. The script. It's what they do. So how do you clearly are not surprised by this game because you said
I
on
watched
Friday.
this team, and I remember
Exactly.
what happens from week to week.
So what do you make of this win? Because there's this balancing and this back and forth of nitpicking their real problems versus this is what they do.
It's not a 2024 thing either. I mean, this has been since they ran roughshod through the league in 2020, coming off that 54 Super Bowl,
But even
and
then,
they were
won
dominating.
they won by two. They won by a little amount of points late in the season.
They did. Was that the year they had the barely beat the Falcons?
Yeah.
Well, and they barely beat the Panthers that year too.
Yes, Panthers had the
Yeah.
field goal
There's-
in the air,
there's
and that's when we heard Patrick Mahomes say,
I guess we're not winning
"We're
by
not
enough.
winning by enough points." So I guess that's a stat.
And
you know,
now
he was annoyed.
Now he's like, no, okay,
no.
there's something to that.
Right. They were annoyed.
Last
yesterday.
week, he was like, we got more of a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And we saw that from the offense outside of
100%.
The second to last and the third to last possessions there,
Mm-hmm.
where they went backwards about 50 yards, and the flags helped there. That was an offense that pretty much hummed all day long.
Yep. They scored on their first 5 possessions.
Yeah.
They had opportunities to get more touchdowns even on those, but some penalties.
Yeah,
hurt
listen,
them.
I hate it when they race to the red zone and then end up with 3. It's like, oh, it was so easy outside of the last 3 plays. But I'll take field goals, man. If you
score 30 points,
if you get 10 possessions a game and you're scoring 8 times and 5 are field goals, okay, because that's going to get you to about 30 points.
Yeah, if this team is scoring 30 points a game, I like their chances in winning in the Super Bowl. I would like to see the defense perform a little bit better.
Never
if we're
does.
talking about that.
It's like the scales, right? One goes up, the other goes. It's a teeter-totter.
They just the last time they put one crazy game together, offensive defense, was the Bears.
Bears.
Last year, and we know it happens very, very rarely because we remember that specific game.
Bears were horrible.
Right, but it's
they're
like
teeter-totter. Both sides were on the ground the entire
But
game.
if there were like 5 games from the beginning of last year to now where they just destroyed an opponent, we wouldn't look back and go, well, a game like the Bears game. It's just like so rare and few and far between. But it is so much more their modus operandi this. Because, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I'm like, you know what? To have a game that you win that feels like a loss, you got to go all the way back to last year when they beat the Jets. And Zach Wilson was unbelievable that game. The second highest quarterback rating of Zach Wilson's career. Shout out Pete Sweeney for bringing that up this morning. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great comparison. So this reminded him of Zach Wilson, just having like a 110 quarterback rating that day against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs surviving the Jets. And then they go to the Panthers, and they survive the Panthers, and Bryce Young has one of his best performances of his career in a game where the Chiefs barely win, and you're like, boy, there's some real issues with this team. And it's kind of what they do. They lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day. They lost to the Broncos by 15 points, the 2-5 Broncos at the time when they lost to them.
That Broncos win this year almost felt like a loss.
Yeah. I mean, they lost to the 4-12 Colts last year.
Yeah.
20-17. They beat the Giants 20-17 in 2021. The Giants were 2-5, and that got them to 4-4. On the season.
Yeah.
Like and there are plenty of others that I can keep going back that I wrote down that I'm just not going to get into because you get the point. Like it happens every year.
It happens every
with this
year.
team.
And honestly, this is compared to the regular seasons the last 3 years, going back to 2020, 21, 22, 23, this regular season has been way better, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've won 10 of 11. You've got the best record in the AFC. You're in control of everything heading into December here.
They haven't suffered one of those head-scratching losses. We're like, what the hell just happened to
And
this
the
team? How did
good
that happen?
thing / bad thing is, like, I don't know who would be left. Maybe Raiders at home, I guess. Head scratching, but I mean, that team plays them tough.
Cleveland,
divisional opponent.
that's on the road,
yeah.
but
because there's some good teams
right.
coming up. There's going to be some tough games. And so
this was the last one that you lost, and you win it. Like that would be disaster if they
Yeah.
lost. Like Raiders, I think to a different degree because I think the Raiders are heading in the other direction. I think the Raiders are sliding back. Like last year, they were trying to ascend, and they were like, "Yeah, we can prove that Antonio Pierce is our head coach, and we're going up against the Chiefs, and we're going to out-physical them. This is a new style of Raiders football now with this guy in charge, and Devontae Adams got the quarterback change he wanted, so now he's fully all in." And you still got Josh Jacobs to run the football. Like, all right, we're going to go and show them what we can do. That was the Panthers over the weekend. To me, like this Raiders team is you've
7
lost
in a
2
row they've
quarterbacks. They've lost 7
Down
in a
to
row.
Ritter now.
Far cry from winning against Cleveland and Baltimore. They've traded Devontae Adams. Antonio Pierce ain't working out. It's a little bit different them coming into Kansas City on Friday than it was on Christmas Day last year when they were trying to prove that Antonio Pierce was their guy.
It was Chiefs by 2, though. In that 7-game losing streak, the Rams, they played the Rams close, but the only other one-possession game was against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep. And they were down by 14 until like a minute to play when they pulled within 7. And then
Andy letting off the gas, kind of like what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, but that was that they have played. They have gotten blown out in a number of these games.
It ain't gonna happen Friday. I promise you.
13-point favorites. The Chiefs are over the Raiders.
No way, Vegas! How dumb are you?
13.5 it opened up at, but it's dropped a half point.
I'm betting that right now.
Half point.
What are we doing?
They have one win by 13 points this year. Their largest margin of victory is
Chiefs?
13. Yeah, the Saints. They won 26-13. They don't have a win this year by more than 13 points. But the non-head scratching loss, I will say, in the NFL, the Steelers just lost to the 2-8 Browns.
That's the other part of this.
The Texans just lost to the 2-8 Titans at home. The Commanders lost to the 3-7 Cowboys with their backup quarterback at home. The Vikings beat the Bears in overtime. The Bears are 4-7. Vikings are 9-2. That's not nearly to the degree as the other three, but the Raiders have 2 wins this year. One of them was at Baltimore. Like Baltimore, are they better than the Chiefs? Baltimore, are they the class of the AFC? Who's better? Chiefs are just finding ways to just win these close games. But we're going to gloss over the fact that Baltimore lost to the Raiders at home. No. Baltimore's dominating teams in these wins, and Chiefs are barely winning. Now, Baltimore did lose to the Raiders, but who cares about that? Seattle's trying to win the West, and, they lost to the 2-6 Giants at home. Like, there are some bad losses across the league that the Chiefs haven't suffered yet, even with these AFC
That's how
teams.
they win the division every year. That's how they're one of the top seeds in that. Like, okay, if you're Buffalo, you can go get a win. If you're the Chargers, you can go beat the Chiefs. If you're a good team here and there, Bengals, you can get a win in the regular season. But are you following it up with beating the Browns the next week? No, a lot of times. Are you do you not get upset by the Bills, the Jets, or somebody like that? And often you have those types of games where, as the Chiefs, okay, they take that loss, but then for the most part, they take care of business the rest of the way. And that's the other part of this, is that it's not a problem that is just the Chiefs. It happens all over the NFL. You would think that the Chiefs, the 2-time Super Bowl champs, this team that has won more games than anybody over the last 5, 10, and now 12 years in the NFL, would be immune to that, or at least not every single week. But they're not, and so it is a first world problem if you're a Chiefs fan here.
And there's a couple things with that, and we'll take a break. We're going to learn funniest best, but a couple things with that. One, the Chiefs were not happy with their performance. I mean, they got the win, and beating the Broncos, they were like, they were running around and celebrating and everything. That was like, we got the win. Hell yeah, we won this game. I don't know how we did it, but we won this game, right? That post-game press conference in the locker room. Oh man, Leo Chanel. This one,
Pat didn't even celebrate after that kick went in.
No, Travis Kelce just shook Andy Reid's hand as like, all right, well, have a good night, sir. We'll see you tomorrow here, bright and early, 8 o'clock with the meeting with the Jones Group. Looking forward to that one there, sir. Tell the wife I said hi. And Andy Reid goes to the locker room and says, hey, guys, nobody hang their head. Nobody hang their head in here, guys. This is a win. Because guys were hanging their head. They were pissed off about winning like that. I appreciate the fact that they won, and they weren't satisfied, and they were mad about how they went about their business. Because there are plenty of times where they're winning and like, why is everybody complaining about this? They are holding themselves to a certain standard, even in a win, that they feel like they should have played better in that win. The other, being of two minds in this, the other part is, I understand why there could be frustrations and concerns because some of these things can get you in the playoffs. We've seen the Chiefs overcome their fatal flaws in the playoffs, and it hasn't been fatal because they've won the Super Bowl last 2 years. But it doesn't mean you're going to do that every year. Doesn't mean that this year, the margin for error being so thin that, well, when they get in the postseason, they're just going to protect the hell out of Patrick Mahomes. And they're going to sack the quarterback, where last year they kept dropping the ball and turning the ball over. They get into the postseason, no drops and only a couple turnovers in 4 games. They were winning the turnover battle in all of those games. They flipped the script of what the regular season had been. Do they do that this year? Then they win the Super Bowl. If not, the real concerns about the defense not being able to get off the field or pressure the quarterback. And the tackles, and sometimes Trey Smith too. Like, he hasn't had the best year in pass protection. There have been some issues at different points in the game about protecting Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and look, in the NFL and these pro sports, the postseason, it's the same dudes, the same teams you're playing in the regular season. It's not like high school football. Oh, we're taking this team across from the east side of the state. They're good. I mean, you're not graduating every single week really to competition you haven't seen, because you've played these teams in the regular season, and it is a heightened level. You have to bring a different sort of focus, but I think the Chiefs have that. And look, if I have to pick, I'll take a Chiefs team that's averaging 30 points a game and giving up 27 than one that's averaging 21 and giving up 18. I like Mahomes going and winning the game at the end as opposed to the defense having to hold on for a toe out of bounds.
I'm with you on that one. Give the Chiefs, Mahomes, the ball at the end. I think they'll be pretty successful in figuring that out. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, learn funniest best on the other side, hanging out with Mick Schaefer on this Victory Monday on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Mick Schaefer, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. Time for a little Learn Funniest Best. It's presented by Citywide Remodelers. If you're ready to turn your house into your dream home and upgrade your bedroom, kitchen, and bathrooms with top-notch craftsmanship, visit Citywide Remodelers at citywideremodelers.com. We go around the room and also the control room.
Sure.
What we learned, funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. Mick, do you have a learned and a funniest and a best?
I learned I got a funniest. I have two bests.
Oh, how about that, man?
He's gone. I got time, right?
You know what? You
Make
got
up for
plenty
it.
of time.
Yeah.
You can stretch your legs a little bit, spread your wings, really, really relax. Dylan, you got to learn funniest best? Drake, you got one? Nope. Okay, very good. Let's start with the learned from the weekend. I learned a lot of things, but there was one main thing that I learned. And so Christmas lights, I love putting up the Christmas lights
Do you?
outside. I
Wait,
do.
wait.
I do. I enjoy it. I
I've
really
learned
do.
you're a maniac,
I
Ben.
really do. Yeah, I enjoy it.
So how much? Are you up on the peaks of the house and the whole deal? You
No,
on the
I don't do
roof?
that stuff, right?
Okay.
But we do like the garland on the on the front porch. We do like the lining the sidewalk and the driveway with those lights.
Yeah.
We do the lights on the trees outside on the trunks of the tree and everything. So we also have like a reindeer. Not a regular deer, but a reindeer.
I did it
that
for
lights
45
up.
minutes this morning, and I hated it. Every second
So
of it.
I enjoy doing it. What I don't like is when you break out the lights for the first time in a year, and you got to figure out
Do they
you know,
work?
the fixing the shunts and then the switching out the lights. So
Do you go in and put in like the new?
lights and fixing the shunt. Yeah.
I just go get new ones if they don't work. Is that what they're called, the shunts?
Well, you can fix a shunt with one of those little Christmas light guns.
I call them fuses or whatever. You put the
Well, those
change
are
the
fuses. Those are
Okay,
fuses too. Those rarely go out, but So what I knew is that there were 2.5 and 3.5 volts of different light bulbs that you can use for different strands. I knew that, but what I didn't realize, and of the years of me putting up lights, I never ran into the issue of some 2.5 volt bulbs have 0.43 watts and some 2.5 volts call for 0.25 watts. Those are two different types of light bulbs.
Okay.
I figured that out because the garland that we have, 50 feet of garland that we're putting up in front of the house.
50 feet.
Yeah, that's right, because we wrap it around the poles and then up over the little mantle area and then down the other side. But the light bulbs that I was putting in there, they were dim. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why is that not working out? It took me a while to figure out that the light bulbs I was putting in were 0.43 watts, but it called for a 0.25 watts. So it was overwatted, so it was dimming it. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that just the craziest thing you've ever learned? I mean, let me tell you how crazy that is. And for anybody out there that's going through that, you're welcome. Because I wish somebody last week would have said, there's different wattage that goes along with these different volts for the Christmas lights, because I would have figured that out earlier. It took me about 3-4 hours of research and a lot of different light bulbs that I'm testing and putting in there. But we got it done and we're good to go now.
Just buy a new strand, man.
It sounds like a waste of money.
They're like $5.
Yeah, but you know what? I got to figure it out. Now I know.
You got to figure it out. I mean,
yes,
if you think
now
about it,
I
it took you
know.
3 hours.
But
That's
now I know there are different.
time is money.
But now
really.
I know next year and the year after that and forever year that there are different wattages to go along with even the 2.5 volt bulb. What'd you learn, Mick? Besides that,
I learned that I could sit through that story and not fall asleep.
See, there you go.
Learn everything.
We've all learned something today, huh? And everybody out there that didn't know about the different wattages like me, you're welcome. If you did, you're so smart.
So I learned about Mississippi Valley State's basketball schedule.
Oh, you did?
Mississippi Valley
Finally?
State has not only played Missouri, but they have played. They are the Delta Devils, I believe.
Devils, that's right.
They have played Kansas State. So watched them a couple nights, and looked up who they had played. And it turns out, I believe, still their only win.
Yep.
They have one win on the season, and that win is against, you ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
Do you know where this is going?
I do.
The Mississippi University for Women.
Mm-hmm.
That's their win.
Yep.
Is over the Mississippi University for Women, which has men's sports.
I believe it used to be called the University of Mississippi University for White
Women. Yeah. You didn't need to bring that up, but yeah, that was back in the day. Yes.
Back in the day, back before
they
we
changed
were more
that,
evolved.
thankfully.
Thank God. Yes, but now also it's open to men.
7-to-1 women to men ratio at the university, but they have.
That ain't bad. I'll tell you what.
Well done, man. If you can't get it done there.
I mean, you know what I mean? Fish in a barrel.
Fish
anyway,
in a
go
barrel.
ahead.
That's their mascot, actually. No, their mascot's the Owls, and so they have men's sports. They don't have football, I don't believe, but they do have men's basketball. They got baseball, and so they have what turns out to be a really bad men's basketball team because Mississippi Valley State lost by like 60 to Mizzou.
I think it was 70, but whatever. Who's counting?
Yeah, it was like 111-39 or something like that. And so that I kind of pride myself. Even those small schools, there's not many schools out there I haven't heard of, but I had not heard of Mississippi University for Women and that they had men's sports, nor did I know what they originally were named.
And now we all know. Now we learned that one along with the wattages of the volts of the Christmas lights and those bulbs. Dylan, what'd you learn?
So I learned that Puka Nacua recently learned that the Rams actually play in the NFC West. And this is a real report from Lindsey Theory of ESPN Los Angeles, per Adam Schefter the morning before Sunday's action. From L.A., Lindsey Theory reported that wide receiver Puka Nacua only recently learned that the Rams played in the NFC West.
Did he think it was another division, or did he just not know?
Did not get a follow-up tweet, but
I don't.
That alone is
that doesn't surprise me as much as maybe it surprises other people. I've known a lot of these football players. Remember when Travis Kelce didn't know who they're playing the next week on Manningcast?
I agree, but
that's one thing. That's a little worse. What is he in year 2, 3? What's he in? Puka in
year 2.
Is year 2.
And they didn't really compete last year for it with all the injuries, so maybe that's why. I don't know why Puka Nacua doesn't have a helmet that's a little bit bigger for his face. He looks like a grown man dressing up as a football player that's wearing a child's helmet. It's just stuffed into his helmet. Everybody else has a little space, right? It looks fine.
Anthony Richardson has the same issue.
It's so weird looking at Puka Nacua. I'm like, he's got the fattest face ever. Oh, wait, no. His helmet is just really small. Does he have pads in there? Does he just put a shell over his face? It's ridiculous. All right, funniest for you, Mick.
Funniest
Besides
for
looking
me,
at Puka in a helmet.
I just learned about this. Might be late to the party. Do you know about they do
Jim Abbott
AI? No,
sorry.
They do AI like movie trailers for like sequels, and they are hilarious.
No, I
and
didn't
they're
know that.
like they look real. I'm like, these have to be real actors. And they're like, no, my kids showed them from last night. So and they'll do famous movies like Titanic 2, right? So Jack lives. They show him washing up on a deserted island, and then he shows up, and it's young Leo showing up at a house, and they're delivering lines. It sounds like their voice and everything. And he shows up at Kate Winslet's house in a suit, but his face and hair are still wet from the Atlantic Ocean. And they did Forrest Gump too, as well. And he's based. I think he discovers the iPhone, right? Or he invents that. And his kid's all grown up, Haley Joel Osment. And then
Legacy to Alabama.
Yes, absolutely. They did a Simpsons one, but with real people. Like Adam Sandler was playing Homer Simpson.
Nice.
Kristen Wiig was playing Marge. And it was so realistic. I'm like, this is,
So where do you
this is all
find
on
this at?
computer. We were on, I think, like the Prime or the Amazon or the Paramount, one of the apps last night, just searching through maybe just YouTube.
Yeah.
But you can find them. They're a real thing, and it's all the famous movies of the past. They'll do a different version of them, a sequel.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was the funniest for you, Dylan?
Funniest for me, if you hate St. Louis, there's a
listening, I'm
little
listening.
rivalry between Kansas City and St. Louis. They had to watch the 99 Rams get honored at halftime of the Lakers game at the Crypto Arena in Los Angeles. So their only Super Bowl is now Los Angeles' Super Bowl, and
unbelievable.
they're rubbing it in their face and honoring them.
Unbelievable.
Per Dan
I'll take your word for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you know.
Dan Orlov is
Woike, W-O-I-K-E Sports.
Sure. My funniest happened on Sunday at Home Depot. Went there with the kids, and I was looking for a couple of things that you typically do at Home Depot. And I told the kids that they can go through the Christmas section and look around. It's fine, no big deal. So I start walking over there, and my daughter is like climbing up to the second shelf to press these buttons that say "Try Me," that play the sounds for like Mickey and these bigger yard Christmas decorations. And so I'm walking over there, and she's up climbing, and I start going, Jules, Juliet, and she is not responding, Mick.
Oh,
And
was it her?
There's a guy standing next to her, right? And I'm annoyed because I feel like she's invading his space, right? I'm like, Jules, get down. And I get over there, and I'm like, oh, you're not Jules. Oh, and you were this girl's dad. Yeah, my daughter would be up there too. Totally cool that your daughter's up there. I'm not judging you because you're right here and you're there to help her if she falls. So not a big deal, even though you heard me yelling, get down, get off of there. I felt terrible.
So that's how you have that shiner right now?
That's right.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, oh, yeah, she wanted to press the buttons. I'm like, well, you know what? My daughter would want to press the buttons too. So I'm
it's totally cool that your
totally
daughter's
with
doing
you that
it.
your daughter's there. And so then I felt bad. And so then I walked around a little bit more. Then I looked back and she was pressing the buttons, my daughter.
So you let it happen.
So I'm like, you know what? Anybody else want to press? I'm not even taking a chance. I don't know if this is my daughter or not. I'm going to let her do that. And my son's standing right next, but I don't know. There could be twins here. All right. But yeah, I felt so bad for the dad because I'm like, you are not supposed to be. Get down. You are not. Your daughter's fine being up there. Not a big deal. I'll go find my daughter now. Sorry about that. Best for you, Mick. It's very embarrassing.
I have two bests. One is did you see St. Joe LeBlond and Rockport 8-man football game Friday night?
No.
Tied at 54.
Yeah, I don't watch high school football anymore.
Yeah. Tied at 54. 5 seconds left. Rockport is throwing a Hail Mary. They're on their own 20. Granted, the field's only 80 yards. Throws a Hail Mary. St. Joe LeBlond kid catches it about 40, 50 yards downfield. He intercepts it. He runs it all the way back to about the 20. And then, it's been zeros for about 15 seconds at this point. He then laterals to another dude who runs it in for a touchdown. They win 60-54 on a walk-off
Oh, my God, amazing.
pick six from a Hail Mary.
I thought they were winning.
It's tied 54-54.
Right. I didn't get that part. That's my apologies.
That's quite all right.
I was already thinking in my mind how I'm not paying attention to high school football anymore. So
more high school
amazing.
football here. Baker Mayfield donated lots of money to a high school football program in Florida. They're the Space Coast Vipers, and that is about the coolest name ever for a high school, I've determined. They were 1-8 last year. He got a bunch to do like $18,000 worth of equipment, all these new SpeedFlex helmets, all this stuff, and look good, feel good, play good. They won state in them, and so that was cool. Well done, Bake. Corey is probably shedding a tear for
for Bake.
For Bake.
That's
I'm
right.
shedding a tear for Corey.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. It was one of my bests as well.
Was
but,
it?
No, it was really cool.
Should let it go.
No, it's all good, man. Dylan, we're running low on time anyway, so it's perfect. Dylan, your best?
Best was Eli Drinkowitz yelling at Mississippi State to shut the blank up or I'm going to score. I love it when the lip reading gets caught and it's very perfect. And also I like that. I like Eli and I love the moxie.
Yeah, my best also was also an annoyance of the BYU and Arizona State game when all the fans ran onto the field and they couldn't get them off. And then they couldn't get them to clear from the 10-yard line to the end zone, right? And I'm like, just switch and go the other way. It's a Hail Mary for BYU. Nothing is going to happen down on that end.
Maybe the sun or the wind could be a difference.
Flip the other way. So 15 minutes pass. They finally get them clear. They were already heading the other way.
Oh, they were?
They didn't even have to switch it. They were just heading the other way. They're like, well, that's on the opposite. Why didn't you say that? Just leave them down there. Could be at Augusta or any other golf tournament. Once you get on the green, everybody just fills that part anyway because you're not going that way. It doesn't matter
One
anymore.
of those bowl games, one of those years at Wrigley or Yankee Stadium, they're like, it was too short. The end zone was too short, and they just went the same way every time.
Going the other way. They were going the opposite. Just leave them at the 10-yard line. You wasted 15 minutes getting them from the 10 back into the stands. And then the Hail Mary was completed down to the 2-yard line, which would have been amazing if Arizona State would have lost.
I had Oklahoma State, Central Michigan flashbacks in my head.
Yeah, I appreciate Oklahoma State not pulling off that victory. Help me out with a parlay. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back and wrap the show next. Tuesdays a lot. Kansas getting the big win over Colorado.
All three, right?
K-State winning, Mizzou winning, the Royals winning and making their trade. A lot of wins.
That offense won for the Royals. Yeah,
that's right.
Lineup won.
Jonathan India won, and WN and ONE.
Mm-hmm.
Batting one
Batting
in the
one.
lineup. Yeah, so a lot of wins. We'll talk some college football tomorrow. We'll also hear from Patrick Mahomes and the coordinator with a short week.
Another KCSTL thing. Kansas City Soccer won the Roos, beat St. Louis, and they beat Missouri State last night. They're out for the Sweet 16.
Sweet 16 for
Missouri
your
State
Roos.
champs.
That's exactly right. Make you have a good Thanksgiving.
I'll try.
Absolutely.